couple
So
minutes. All right, cool. And I threw in a new logo in there. I enlarged the actual video for the gameplay, so things are looking a little more crispy.
cool,
We
awesome.
need like a cool little border like around the members or something like that. That'll be cool. Um,
Yeah, it's still a work in progress for sure.
yeah,
But
yeah.
um, yeah, okay. Did you also tweet it out
I'm
and we're
about
live?
to right now. I'm gonna
Okay.
check to see if we're live. We're good to go. A look back for reactions. Let me see. Let me check for audio real quick so everyone ramble and do what you do your thing.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Um,
Ah, yes, gamers. We are all gamers. A good day to be a gamer, and it's a good
Brad,
day to.
who did you have on your podcast today?
Uh, Game Logic, and then like Slow-Mo and Forte popped in for a little bit.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool. B Money wasn't there?
Nah, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't there today.
Were you also on is Crossfire on Fridays or Saturdays?
Fridays. That was yesterday. Yeah, I was on there.
Damn, you're working overtime, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually don't do like this many podcasts. I usually try to do rants like Friday before
Yeah,
Crossfire goes live, but
yeah,
yesterday didn't work at that time before Crossfire.
yeah. I'm guessing it was a good show though, right? I haven't listened to yesterday's episode though, but how was it?
It was good. Definitely, it was nice because just a different opinions on the showcase. But Porter Rock was fired up.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was a good show because there was definitely different perspectives on the showcase.
gotcha. Yeah, I think we're gonna have that as well here too, just in terms of like I know some of us are really not happy with it, and then I think others are just kind of like, it was whatever.
All right, we're
So
good to go on audio. Sorry, I had to get my
oh, you're good.
coffee at the same time.
You're good, dude. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the DualShock and Sense podcast, episode 101. Yes, that's right. 1 week after our 100th episode with Lord Cognito, we are back. Got lots of things to talk about, to discuss, to debate. I think this is going to be a really interesting podcast. I'm really excited for it. Going to go through our usual panel members. First up, we got Macho here. How you doing, man?
What's going on, everybody? King Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy Fanatic. It was a great week. I'm not going to lie. It was
Was
very
it?
entertaining. And Naughty Dog can do no wrong. But
Oh,
Hmm.
other than that, yeah,
here
I'm
we
good,
go.
man. I'm good. How you doing? Jay, how are you doing? What's going on with you?
I'm doing swell. I'm great.
Oh, glad
Uh,
to hear
we also got Walt here as well. What's going on, man?
Hey man, I'm just savoring the sweet, sweet delight of people complaining online. I just love it. It's
Mm,
another good week of seeing people have expectations as always. So I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I savor their saltiness because it's more entertainment for me. I not only movies are coming out, not just a showcase, but clowns. So I'm here for it.
And of course, for episode 101, we wanted to continue bringing in special guests. And of course, we have another one, a legend in our community. That is BRAP, Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. His first appearance on the DualShock and Sense podcast. How you doing, man? Welcome.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Great to be on the show. I really appreciate the invitation. I don't know if I would consider myself a legend. I appreciate the refer to me as that, but I would say I'm a legend. I've been podcasting 8 years now. Have a small channel, but I've been on the gaming Twitter community for, oh my God, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. So
Wow.
and I have a big act to follow up here. I know you guys had Cognito on last week, and I do talk to Cognito quite a bit offline, and really enjoy the podcast that he's a part of, the IOP, and Defining Duke, which I think is the best Xbox centric podcast out there. I really enjoy listening to
Yeah.
him and Mr. Matty Plays. It's a pretty good podcast. So, but no, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here, and I think Me and Macho will. I don't know, Walt, if you're really familiar with BRAP and his podcast, but I feel like I say legend because like we've listened to your podcast for so long, for years. So it's just like it definitely feels like that, you know.
Yeah,
But
100%. It's like when we had BG Broken Games on for our 99th. It's like I listened to both of you guys for years, so it's kind of like surreal. It's really cool.
yeah, for sure. I definitely should have said in your intro, Xbox Live beta tester. I should have introed you like that, honestly. But yeah, like I alluded to earlier, we have lots of great topics to get through. This is going to be a jam-packed episode.
Yeah.
But first, before we get into all that stuff, want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast, share it out, consider subscribing to BRAP as well, the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. We will have all of his information in the description down below. Of course. Let's get started by talking about the games that we've been playing this past week. We can get through these pretty quickly so we can get to sort of the meat of the show, the main topics. For me, this past week, I finished off Resident Evil 4 Remake. Just what a game, man! What a fantastic game. Um, it's really funny because like the last time I played that game, the OG Resident Evil 4 was back on the Wii. You know, the
Jesus Christ.
God's intended way to play that game. You know. Uh, and it was just so funny, like going through some of those, like remembering scenes from the original game and seeing them again here in the remake. It's just like holy crap, man! Like, it's so cool. Um, but yeah, man, it's just a really fantastic game, start to finish. Like I couldn't put it down, even though that towards the end there's some really terrifying moments, and like I hated every second of it, but still pushed through. And yeah, man, just top to bottom, fantastic game. I'm a little, I got a little bit, and I'm curious if you guys will have this same issue when you start playing it as well, where I really got mad towards the end of the game, where it feels like I'm, because you know the barrels and the boxes where you can break open and they'll give you ammo or like loot in general. Um, I was getting really mad because it felt like the ratio of like the amount of times that you would find money in those boxes instead of ammo was heavily leaning towards money. And it just made no sense to me. Where like there'd be times where I'm literally in a boss battle and I'm breaking some of these boxes open, like in desperate need of ammo, and it just gives you money instead. And I'm like, in what world do I need money in when I'm in the heat of like this giant boss battle right now? Like it just made no sense. I like that really pissed me off like several times.
Doesn't that do the game thing where like you can go to a shop in between a certain sequence or something?
It almost kind of worked like bonfires in Souls games where it would have like the merchant like in specific, like you'll go through like this really tough segment, and then at the end of it you would find like a merchant, and that's obviously like where you could use all your money. Um
Ah, okay.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I was just really annoyed by just like the ratio of like money and ammo, because like there was several times where I was just like I had like no ammo, it felt like. Um
Get good.
but hey man, I did pretty good. I got a B ranking. I did okay.
Okay.
But yeah, that was Resident Evil 4. Still chipping away at Wasteland 3. Really still digging it. All my attention's going to that now because I was playing RE4 way more than Wasteland, but now I'm back on Wasteland, and yeah, I'm like 2/3 of the way through it. So yeah, hoping to like wrap that up pretty soon, before at least before FF16. But yeah, those are the two games that I've been playing this week. Macho, what about you, man?
It's been mostly Tears of the Kingdom, honestly. Just 1 second, trying to change this thing. Yeah, it's mostly Tears of the Kingdom. I've so far completed. I'm on the fourth temple out of. Actually, I don't know how many temples there are, but I completed four of them, or I'm on the fourth one. And it's great, man. I'm loving this. I'm digging the story. So like one of the side quests, well, quote unquote side quests. It's the entire point of Tears of the Kingdom is, well, to say Princess Zelda as just every Zelda game, but in this one specifically, there's just the mystery of what happened to her after her and Link got separated at the beginning of the game. So I just finished that sort of quote unquote side quest by finding all the geoglyphs, and you got a nice little cool surprise at the end too. Not and that, and you find out actually what happens to her, which is like really cool. From a story standpoint, what I can say about Tears of the Kingdom is that it's probably I haven't played a ton of Legend of Zelda games to be really clear, but this story is like it's really hitting hard for me. Like it's resonating for sure because before playing the game, I watched the cutscenes for the first game, and I was really digging the character dynamic of Zelda having a lot of reluctance for Link for the fact that whenever she sees him, she reminds herself that she has a weakness because she needs her help, and it's so. But in the sense that they both need each other, so but it's still like a point of confliction for her in the first game, and so for to see that from her, and that and to Tears of the Kingdom and what she does and what happens to her, it's really cool, man. It hits really hard, and I would say like that this game is definitely gonna be up there for me. Final 16 has competition, finally for me. It finally has competition. It's gonna be Tears of the Kingdom. Like the gameplay is fantastic, the dungeons and everything else in between is just so much fun. The story's great. Like yeah, this game's like it's hitting. So it was mostly Tears of the Kingdom, but on Wednesday, fellas, as you guys know, I've been hyping up the Little Mermaid live action movie. Anyone that follows my Twitter knows that, and it did not disappoint. It absolutely did not disappoint. This is the best live action Disney movie since The Jungle Book for me, which was like maybe a little more, a little less than a decade ago. Everything else has been soulless and kind of like not as exciting and fun. Even some of my favorite movies, like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, just had like absolutely like disappointing remakes. But this one, Little Mermaid, is like it's so good, man. The cast is like on point and just so damn good and charismatic. Everyone from like Halle Bailey as Ariel to the guy who plays Prince Eric as Jonah Howard King, I think his name is. Everyone's like super stand out. Like it's an awesome movie, and I'm glad that the audience, from what I've seen, the people that have seen the early screenings and stuff like that, it's hitting for them too. It has like a 95% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is like incredible. I think it's like the highest rated one for a Disney live action movie in a long time. So I'm glad it hits out of the park, and it's gotta say Halle Bailey's voice, man. There's nothing else like it. That woman is perfect for this role, and she did such an amazing job, man. It's what happened?
What?
Did you say something?
No, he's just being, a
Okay.
weird.
Gotcha.
What about you, man? Why don't you contribute to the podcast? What have you been playing?
Yeah, yeah. I've been doing shit. So playing Tears of the Kingdom. That's it. That's all I've been playing. Haven't been playing anything else. There's nothing worth my time right now. Just waiting for Final Fantasy, and since Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, Macho pretty much summed up the beauty of the game. It's hard when you are unprepared, and I forgot that you kind of need to have items on you at all times. So I'm not as creative as these people making mechas. So I'm just over here, with my stick glued to a mushroom or something, and just hitting people. Uh, it's really fun, man. Really great game. It's the best game so far this year that I've been playing, and I still need to get around to Resident Evil 4. Because it's funny that Macho and I both got Resident Evil 4 first, and I think you beat it
Yeah, that is
first,
that is funny. Now that I think about it.
and you got it afterwards. Cause you like,
Yeah,
cause you're weird, right? You like buy a game and like you immediately beat it sometimes, and it's like, whoa.
yeah, sometimes.
Like I take my time, unless it's a long game like Div or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I
And
don't.
sometimes you
I
just
need.
don't finish them. Fraud.
And sometimes you just don't play a game, even though it's a first party title. You talk
I
about
love I love how
it.
just catching strays like this entire episode. It's so fun.
Yeah, no, I'm just chilling. I'm just relaxed. I'm used to it, being a punching bag my whole life. It's
Of
okay.
course.
It's okay.
But Brap, what about you, man? Have you been playing Tears of the Kingdom as well?
Oh yeah, that's the only thing I'm playing right now. Like I can't put the game down. Like it's it's got its hooks in me. Like I was on Crossfire last night. And I was like basically just farming. I was doing the show, farming for resources. But yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I was playing Survivor prior, and then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and it's just such a good game, and I'm loving every minute of it. Like I'll take my Nintendo Switch. There's a brewery like a mile from my house, and I'll go there and have like a beer or two and just sit down and play the game while I'm there. And it's funny, like the zeitgeist around this game is just huge, huge. And like I can't tell you how many people I've had come up to me at the brewery. They see me playing on my Nintendo Switch, and some will say, "Oh, are you playing the new Zelda?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they'll say, "Oh, I'm loving it," or they'll say, "Oh, I can't wait to play it." And just a lot of people are aware of this game. This game is, if I'm not, I think the drunk cat may have retweeted something, and I'll have to look into this, but looks like this is the fastest selling Zelda game ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
And
surprised.
yeah, and it's just it's again, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being game of the year. It just there's so much conversation around this game, and you see a lot. This reminds me of Elden Ring last year, where you saw a
Oh yeah.
lot of you heard a lot of conversation dialogue around that game, and you would see people posting game clips on Twitter, and so you're seeing the similar things with Tears of the Kingdom on social media, where you're seeing people build different things, mechs, different vehicles, traverse the map. It's just yeah, the game is just it's just such a great game, and the fact that they added on the ability to uh, fuse your weapons with different items. I think someone earlier said they're walking around with the sword with the rock attached at the end. The ability to craft different vehicles and be creative within the sandbox. It's yeah, it's just such a good game. I'm having a blast, and I'll probably be playing it later on today again. Yeah, I've got a little bit over 15 hours in it so far, and like I was trying to stick to the main quest, but I have decided to do a little more exploration
Yeah, you
because
just
I'm
get
really enjoying
distracted.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so
so
kind of like bouncing off of that zeitgeist point that you made. It's funny that you say that because I was on my school's campus earlier this week in this like little lounge area where people
mhm.
can just come into and just work on, whatever they're doing or whatever. And I was leaving that area and I literally saw this girl sitting on like an armchair, her Switch out, literally just grinding through Zelda. And I was like, "Yep, that's the proof right there that this game is kind of like it's expanded beyond just like the hardcore community, and it's really just like affecting like literally everyone, like that Elden Ring kind of zeitgeist that we saw last year as well. Um, so yeah, I totally see that as well, just kind of like outside our community. Um, but yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if Zelda wins Game of
Yeah,
the Year as well.
yep,
Um, Yeah, so because yeah, it's honestly like unless there's just like one game out there that's just like no one sort of sees coming, it's like out of the things that have been announced, what actually has like a realistic shot of like dethroning Zelda? It's like I struggle to think of anything, right?
Final Fantasy 16.
I was gonna say Hi-Fi Rush, but that died out so quick, and it was so early. I feel like people will forget about it. By the time that the awards come out, they're like, "Oh wait, yeah, that was a game." Because it wasn't that it was bad, but it was just like really, really good, and then people stopped talking about it. So
Hi-Fi Rush was awesome, but like I'm talking about like something that is like on that like Elden Ring level that like actually has like a legitimate shot of like beating
Final,
out Zelda. Like
the Final Fantasy, yeah, Final Fantasy is the only thing I can think of.
yeah, I
There's
guess
there's virtually nothing else that can stand against it,
I guess we'll
unless
have to
we get
wait.
like a surprise.
Well,
Oh, like
that's
a
what I'm
surprise
saying.
game
That's
that
what I'm saying.
they
Is
didn't
that
we don't know about. But what company do we know of that's can drop a banger like that? Maybe Nintendo's probably the only one there. They're like, oh, actually, Mario Odyssey 2. I don't know, like in November, and then it's like, oh, only I can defeat myself. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying is that we'll probably have to wait for Summer Games Fest to see how the rest of the year is stacking up.
Mhm.
Because Jeff Keighley did say that there was like what 2 or 3 announcements in there that he knows that
Oh man,
everyone's gonna like, or he said something along those
what did
lines.
he say
So
last year? 5
but
Elden Ring level
No,
announcements.
he went on Skillup's podcast this morning, or yesterday,
What do you
wherever it
say?
was. He just said that it's stuff that's gonna be very exciting. He's trying to set expectations. So
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Okay. Yeah.
that's
He's
fair.
he chilled though. He's not Elden Ring level.
yeah,
He's
he
doing
got
fine.
Yeah.
humbled after the five the turning ones. Yeah.
Well, no one's mentioned Starfield. I think Starfield again. I
Oh,
acknowledge my
that's
own
true.
bias of all things Bethesda. I'm a big Bethesda
Ooh.
fan. They sit in my backyard. They're headquartered here, where I live, and
Todd Howard's in the back right now, just
yeah,
scrolling
right.
away.
Yeah, but no, I think maybe maybe Starfield could be in that conversation if they can get back to delivering these. And again, I do have some confidence. I go back and forth with this with Mooch about um, whether or not the Starfield will deliver. I think there's pedigree there with Todd Howard and company, um, but if they can deliver something that's as remarkable as what Skyrim was, but in space, I think maybe
Mhm.
that game could be in the conversation for Game of the Year. But we'll see.
Yeah, I was telling
Yeah.
Soul that it doesn't even need to be like the greatest game ever made. It just needs to be a game that's hitting the zeitgeist as we're talking about. Like it needs its. I had my what was it? I took an arrow to the knee kind of thing. Like it needs like a couple of those and then it'll be fine. As long as it breaks that mold.
But but it's also you need to allow for people to kind of have creative freedom because a lot of the big appeal of Bethesda games is the modding community. So I think if you Starfield is mod friendly and there's room for improvement, even though it feels like a finished product, I think that also kind of adds to it. Because Skyrim, although revolutionary, a lot of it is not the base game itself. It's a lot of what it's become through time. But I think it's a core thing. Like it's Skyrim in space. Listen, I've tried to not think about it, but that is my dream. That is like Skyrim was my favorite games for the longest time, and it still is, but not like my number one anymore. But right now, like I told Macho the other day, one of my dream games that I never thought would ever come to fruition is No Man's Sky. For me, No Man's Sky is like an impossible game that came to fruition. So I'm not asking for that level of expansiveness, but if you give me, I love sci-fi, and you give me that traversal, you give me that RPG beauty and the factions and the ship customization. Oh my god, like I'm sold. And the music, give me space music. Oh my god, no, I'm about to die right now.
Yeah, I just feel like if they can return to how they made RPGs, and I'm really
Mm,
emphasizing RPGs that they did back in like Morrowind slash like the Oblivion era,
mm-hmm,
then I think you listen to them in interviews, and I think Todd and his team realizes that they kind of dropped the ball in that regard with Skyrim and especially Fallout 4. If they can go back to how they made those RPGs back with those two games, then I think they'll be good because I think they let a lot of hardcore fans down, um, with Fallout 4 specifically in that regard, me included.
mm-hmm.
So we'll see if they can get back to that. But again, everything they're saying about them wanting to go back to that style of RPG is music to my ears. But we'll see if they can actually like deliver on that specifically. Um, but yeah, that is gonna wrap up our games played segment. Let's move into what I've titled this episode therapy session. Because I feel like this is a safe space, for us to come together and talk about the events that have transpired this past week. Um, so yeah, I mean let's start off with the big one, the PlayStation showcase that happened on Wednesday. Um, I think how long had it been? Something like 600, or is it something like that, right? 600
Like two
something days?
years.
18
Right, right.
months is what people get
600
thrown around.
600 plus days.
Since the last PlayStation showcase in 2021, which I want to remind everyone, me and Macho weren't that. I don't remember how you felt about that one, but me and Macho, I remember we weren't that big of a fan of the 2021 showcase. We even found that one disappointing because like we liked the opening, we liked how it opened with KOTOR and Stellar Blade, and how it closed. But everything in the middle of that showcase is a blur. I don't remember anything that happened in the middle of that showcase.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, even coming off of that, we were kind of like let down by that showcase, and then we move into now the 2023 showcase, and I guess just like top level thoughts. Like I want to go around the panel, give like a quick brief sort of like how you felt about it, and then give it like a rating, like out of 10, like oh this was like a 5 out of 10 or whatever for me. And yeah, we'll just move down the line. Macho, give me a brief sort of like how did you feel about the showcase, and then give me your rating for it.
Um, well, it was exciting then boring, exciting then boring, slight disappointment, then frustration, and then I went to go see Little Mermaid, so I felt better, and it was a better day. Um, that's
So,
that was if I could sum up that day, that's what it was, and that day was crazy already. So I was like kind of ready to get excited about things, and Little Mermaid was the only thing that was like the best thing out of that day.
yeah,
Um, I would give it. I'm bouncing around between like a 5 and a 6. You know, for my expectations, for what I wanted out of it, it's a 5. Um, as like a whole, like looking at it from more of like sort of quote unquote objective point of view, I think a 6, 7 is fair.
okay,
But someone that was expecting more first parties to show up and show out, it's like a 5 for me.
gotcha. Well, what about you? Brief sort of overall thoughts, and then rating.
I will say the fact that I was with Macho reacting, that always amps up everything, any showcase. So in terms of entertainment value, I'd say it was about a 7.5 to an 8 entertainment value. When it comes to new content, I'll say 6.5 to a 7. Now if we're talking PlayStation proper, it was like a 4. Like May first party, it was severely underwhelming by after the fact. But overall, I will give it about a overall 6.5 to a 7 because I the entertainment value is pretty big for me. But I'm being too generous.
BRAP, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I gave it. Oh man, I gave it a letter grade of a C, but I know you're asking for numerical grade, but I guess 6 out of 10 would be
Yeah,
kind of where I would slot it numerically. But um, yeah, it just I think for me the expectation was it's been 2 years since the last showcase, and I remember that last showcase where they really, I mean, it was like Kotar and Stellar Blade, and then we got the Wolverine announcement. Um,
and
we got the
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2.
2
Yeah,
announcement. I mean, there was just it was like kind of gave me those old E3 vibes. Um, so I was disappointed with that they didn't really show more first party because I was thinking going into the show, yeah, this is my expectation um, that I had of them, given that it's been 2 years since the last big showcase from them. They, obviously the state of plays, which I think some of the state of plays have been pretty good. I've enjoyed some of them, and others I really haven't really cared for.
right.
Um, but yeah, I was disappointed that they didn't have those big first party AAA games that I wanted to see from them. There was no factions, and now we know what's going on with factions. Um, we know that Ben Studios is working on a new IP. We know Sucker Punch is working on something. We know Corey Barlog's working on something. Naughty Dog's working on another IP as well. But there were just things there and then I think there's that Tom Henderson report that he's seen gameplay trailers of other exclusive content that are ready to go out that for whatever reason were not included in that show. And there is some speculation maybe there's a part 2 to this show. Who knows? But outside of that, I mean, even if there's a part 2, that doesn't take away from my disappointment
Right.
of what they showed this week in the showcase. I thought it was a letdown for me. But I also understand that there's a potentially another perspective here that I've heard some other people talk about, and that is those who aren't dialed in the way we are into podcasting and and active on social media and having conversations about gaming every day on social media. Somebody who maybe owns a PlayStation 5 may be saying, "Hey, they should be 25 new games," and that's cool. But it doesn't. It just didn't move the needle for me. So
Yeah.
I hope that the next showcase or whatever they do, we see more of those. We see more AAA or first party exclusive games that their studios are working on.
I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that, Brett, because sorry, just a quick interrupt
Oh, go ahead.
because even though like I was disappointed and I voiced that, even in the reactions, I had two people text me, and like these are people that are like not like hardcore gamers, like they play games every now and then. Like my friend or my best man at my wedding, like he played Monster Hunter and stuff like that, but he doesn't have a PS5. He texted me, he's like, "Yo, did you see the Spider-Man 2 gameplay?" I was like, "Oh, that made the rounds quick," and that was like
Mm.
an hour after the showcase. And I had another person text me. It's like, "Yo, there's so many games coming to PS5." I'm like, "Oh, see, that's where it's heading for people." You know?
And what did I and to your point, Brad, I that's the perspective I provided during the reaction to Macho, and there's a large population of people that are not as involved as we are. They don't know about the Bloomberg article. They don't know about what Jeff Keighley said. They don't know about Kojima's podcast. Like, we know about this stuff because we're so, into the zeitgeist and so consistently updated with these things. And to that point, I mean, Macho, I don't have any anecdotal people that like, my friend group, they're all gamers or whatever. But the same was said, oh, Metal Gear, oh, Spider-Man, oh, the big titles, but also, oh, by the way, this is a really pretty, talking about the game with the wolf dying and it's like a nature-based game. It's like an animated short. Oh, this looked really cute. I wonder what this is. And so there's something for everyone to kind of talk about. But I think, at least in my case, I was disappointed because I was for sure convinced in my mind, oh, we're gonna see factions. Oh, we're gonna see something factions or something about like a first party. I mean, we did get Spider-Man, but for some reason, that's the one thing that Macho reiterated. I'm like, damn, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in that too. I don't know.
Well, because we also said on this podcast that they they can't close with Spider-Man because it's like it's something that we already know about. And we said this with Lord Cognito that it's like usually you reserve the one here's the one more thing for something new, brand new, you've never seen before, the sort of like blow your socks off kind of like
Mm-hmm.
announcement, right? And so for me, literally, and I'll get into my ranking here in a sec.
Yeah.
When Jim Ryan got up there and he was like, before we move to our last game, my heart literally dropped because obviously we hadn't seen Spider-Man yet, and I was like, we're closing with Spider-Man 2, really? Which again, the gameplay looked great and awesome. I'm really excited for that game, but it's just like for me that kind of took the wind out of the sails a little bit because it's like we're closing out on something already expected, something we already know is going to be there. So that all like disappointed me so much. Um but yeah, sort of moving into what I think about the overall show. This was definitely one of the showcases ever. you know, it was, yeah, it was definitely one
Oh
of the
man.
showcases ever. It's like a 6 out of 10 for me. I think my biggest thing is, and Macho, we talk about this all the time about this perception of Sony investing so heavily into games as a service, and whether right or wrong, people are perceiving that now Sony is leaving behind single player games, right? We talk about this all the time that now they are solely focused on games as a service, where we know, right, that that's not the case at all, right? Corey Barlog's making a brand new IP. Neil is directing, his next single player game. We know that
Mm-hmm.
all these, Blue Point is working on something new. Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima 2. We can go to Team Asobi. They're working on something brand new. We can literally go down the line of all these teams who are also making single player games, right? So it's not just games as a service. So we know that, but I don't think you did yourself any favor of like dissuading those people who have those concerns by showing 4 first party games at this showcase and 3 of them being live service, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think you did anything to quell those fears that some of these people have. I think that was my biggest issue with this showcase. And obviously we'll get to like some of these individual announcements like Concord. Like that to me is like I'm usually CGI trailers are like I don't have as big as an issue with them as a lot of people do. Just in the sense I think it's unrealistic to expect literally the first announcement of a game to always have gameplay. I think that's a little unrealistic. But this was like the worst possible case of like a CGI trailer where like it's short, It literally tells you nothing about the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
During our
yeah.
reactions when the announcement for Haven and Concord and all that stuff came up, you can hear in our reactions. Walt and I were like, is that gonna be a live service game? What's that supposed to be? Is that PvP? It looks like maybe it's like we don't know. We don't know, and that's the worst part.
It's a bad sign when you literally get more information from like the blog post than the actual
Mhm.
trailer itself. So yeah, that was a weird announcement to me. Um, that felt like one of those things where it's just like, why even include it? At that point, you can put in Cory Barlog's game in there if you're going to show off Concord. That just shows you absolutely nothing about the game, right?
Exactly,
Uh,
which is the point that kind of pissed me off. Where it's like you're willing to show these games are like a year or two out, give no release dates, give no. I mean, they gave a release window, but like give no indication what the game actually is or what we're doing. But we can't show Corey's new game. You can't show what Neil's working on, like or Blue Point.
Well,
Like,
I will say that although we didn't get, not to say that that's not a bad thing or a good thing, because I do think that it's disappointing that we didn't get at least a snippet of those things. But you do get announcements like the final shape from Destiny. With Bungie recently being acquired, you, at least for the Destiny community, and this is me. We had the conversation last week with Cog where we were talking about like the future of Destiny. This was a pretty big announcement that got the entire community kind of talking about it. And I think that although the overall PlayStation community wasn't completely satisfied, I think at least the Destiny fans got something that they have to look forward to.
yeah,
Although it's
but
not,
who cares about them? Who cares about them?
you'll play Destiny, fool.
I'm
Who
concerned.
cares about you?
I'm concerned about me and what I want from this showcase.
See, that's
Yeah.
that's what I told Walt. Walt was like,
Shut
you
up.
gotta think about other perspectives. People that don't really game or in our circle are gonna be excited. I'm like, well, I don't care about they ass. I care about what I want.
That's the thing. I was excited because I got stuff in this showcase that I do enjoy, like
Yeah,
Marathon.
we'll talk
Bro,
about that stuff. We'll
come
we'll,
on.
we'll get into that now. So going down the line, on the panel, what was everyone's sort of like standout for from the showcase that because we all pretty much gave it like that 5 to 6 range in terms
Mhm.
of the rating. What were sort of the standout games that actually got it to like that score for you? Macho, we'll start with you first.
So wait, no, stop that. I'm not me, but I would say let's start with
All
BRAP.
right.
Just look at the time.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
Yeah, Brap, what about you then? Go first.
Yeah, I think the game that really stood out to me was Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it. I mean, it looked, I thought it looked really good. I know there was some conversation shortly after the show that maybe the game didn't look it looked very similar to the first Spider-Man. And then when you look at the side-by-side videos and just
Yeah.
Spider-Man traversing and the first Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, you could see the difference.
mhm.
You could see the difference. The scale, the lighting's better. Um, there's more detail. Like there was a side by side video I saw of Spider-Man from the first Spider-Man game traversing through the harbor, and then you look at Spider-Man traversing through the harbor in Spider-Man 2. You could immediately see the difference. The in terms of the scale scope of the harbor in Spider-Man 2 versus the harbor in Spider-Man 1, and there's more detail there. Um, but one of the things I noticed in that game is just how smooth the traversal was. It was smooth on the first one and in Miles Morales, but there seemed to be more assets in screen through the traversal, and I thought it was running very smooth.
Oh yeah.
And so it's that was the showing that kind of, because at that point I was going to give the show a D.
Yeah.
Showing Spider-Man 2 raised the score, the grade that I gave it to a C. But that to me it was the most probably the game I'm most excited for. And then there's what is it, Phantom Blade Zero, which is
Yeah.
another game that kind of caught my eye, and interested to see what Haven Studios, they shut off their game. That looks kind of interesting. Interesting to I want to learn a little bit more about that. But for me, Spider-Man 2 was the highlight of the showcase.
Yeah, for sure. Some people would even say that even like saved the showcase for them, which I completely understand for sure. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but, but yeah, I think for and I guess we can kind of get into Spider-Man 2 a little bit here. I think for me, like the most impressive part was like the swinging felt like a little bit faster. Like the launch that Miles did, like pulling down those two like lampposts or whatever to like launch himself into the air, and then just how fast that seemed, and then immediately transitioning into the wingsuit kind of thing. Like I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that little segment just got like the biggest pop out of me. I just loved seeing that. Um, but yeah, Macho, I'm assuming for you too, Spider-Man 2 is kind of the thing that you were the most excited for coming out of this showcase.
No, not really because it was expected. Um,
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was really cool though. I mean, I loved what I saw, but it was just more of like, for me, Water's wet. I'm gonna buy it day one. I just want to see a little bit more gameplay, what they're messing around with, and it's cool. They're still sticking with like their huge action set pieces, and apparently that's like one of many in that game, which is gonna be
Yeah.
really exciting. I'm just excited more for the story and where they're taking with this symbiote suit and how it's going to affect Peter and Miles' relationship and what surprise are in store for there because there's so many ways they could take it. Um,
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things though from this trailer that I was brainstorming in my head while watching it was that Craven is just a sadistic a hole, man, and I love it because right in the beginning of the trailer, you get a sense of like he's bored. So he what do he do? He goes to the concrete jungle where there's a whole bunch of animal-like heroes and villains that he's just gonna absolutely turn the key on. And we saw it, right? The lizards in there, Dr. Connors. He's
Yeah,
also
and hopefully that doesn't mean that we got Rhino showing up to this game again.
I was exactly thinking of Rhino. I was like, he's probably gonna bring out Rhino. What if Vulture
Like,
comes
please,
back?
dear
Oh
God,
my
not
gosh.
Rhino again.
They are
Please.
animal like. I didn't realize the animal trend. Yeah,
Yeah,
black cat.
exactly. And Black Cat did like a little teaser in that trailer too for like people he's looking out for, and obviously the Spider-Man, right? So
Hmm.
I think this game is going to be filled with animal-like villains for Craven to meet his match, so to speak, and have just
Yeah.
basically wreak havoc in the entire city. Like New York City is his playground, including all the other boroughs. So it's going to be really cool to see what they do with that, who like comes back or who's new, stuff like that. So that was really exciting. But I would say the biggest surprise though for the showcase for me was Dragon's Dogma 2. I did not expect that whatsoever,
Yes,
and
sir.
that game looks tasty, man. That game looks
Looks
scrumptious.
tasty. That dark fantasy, baby.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm loving it. It's I gotta get back to the first one to actually play through that one,
same.
that one was really good. And oh yeah, Foam Stars, 100% Foam
Yes,
Stars.
sir. Splatoon 2.0.
Yeah.
The next
Come on,
Babylon's
Soul.
Fall.
You don't feel like you wanna squirt each other with some foam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Slide up and down the foam and with my surfboard. Yes, sir.
Alright,
Ready to go
alright.
for it. I hope
Brad,
you're willing to
you
join me.
did you did you ever play Dragon's Dogma? I'm trying to bring this conversation back to a real game, a real man's game. But did you ever play Dragon's Dogma, Brap?
Yeah, many years ago. And that was actually I should have mentioned Dragon's Dogma 2. Like that's one of the games that a lot of people who are fans of that game have been asking for a sequel to. So it was really cool to see that be revealed at the show. That actually was another highlight for me. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited for it. Definitely looking forward to it. It's really cool to see Capcom kind of have this what I call kind of a revival of sorts. I
Oh,
think at one point there was some chatter out there that they were maybe looking to be acquired, and then they released Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter does very well for them, and then they do the remakes of RE, and those do well. So it's great to see them putting out content that's being embraced by the gaming community and that's doing well for them financially. And I think that's probably maybe that's what led to the green lighting of Dragon's Dogma 2. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I completely forgot about that game being announced. I thought that was a really solid announcement at the showcase as well.
Yeah, that's one of my highlights as well. I played and finished the game, I think last year or in 2021 or something like that. So yeah, it's like seeing that pop up in the showcase was like one of those moments where I was like, just like hell yeah, dude! Like finally actually seeing this game. in motion, and it's just like immediately like because Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is still fresh in my mind. The way that game looks is still fresh in my mind, unfortunately. And like
Hmm.
immediately just seeing two in action, it's like, oh yeah, this is like a step up visually in like every single way. My one thing for that game is that I think the first game was kind of like notorious for this, is that like in terms of like environments, that game is literally forest, caverns, castle ruins, and then there's like this big city in like the center of the map. And that's pretty much it. I'm a little bit worried that, and granted, we've only seen like what, like a 2 minute trailer. I'm a little worried that like in this gameplay trailer that it kind of looked like the same environments of just like woods, same kind of like I am excited though that it looks like there's gonna be more like medieval towns because like I said earlier that there was only really one giant city in the last game. So I definitely would love more towns to explore and things like that. Um, I guess I'm just hoping that there's more like variety in terms of like the environments that you get to explore in this game because yeah, like I said, it was
Yeah.
very limited in the first game. So
Yeah, you're right about that. Like the open world environment looked pretty much the same as the first
yeah,
Dragon's Dogma. Like, and I'd like to see some variety. We'll see. We'll
yeah.
see.
I,
But
I think Elden Ring kind of spoiled us on that, just like the
yeah,
the variety in that world. But yeah, or even in Skyrim too. I really love the
Dude,
variety.
Tears of the Kingdom right now, like every there's like five different biomes and they're all so diverse. You want five different biomes, you have the sky and then you have the depths. So like you have so much variety already. They
Or
need to step up their
even
game.
something like Horizon too. Just
Hmm.
yeah, the places that you get to see and explore with that. So yeah, really, really hoping that they have more of that for Dragon's Dogma 2. The combat still looks really, really sick. I think
Yep.
when people talk about this game, they will always say that this is magic done right.
Hmm.
And the magic continues to look really, really cool and fun to use in this game. So yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, man, I cannot be more excited for that game. That was definitely one of the standouts for me. Well, what about you, man? What were some of the highlights for you at the showcase?
I mean, uh, two of them belong to the same company, and one of them was the execution. Could have reminded me of Resident Evil 2 remakes reveal. They did the same with Metal Gear, with the animals, the predators, and each time you get a different predator, and then you get the apex himself. I mean, you get Solid Snake. Oh man, that was. I knew the rumors and everything. I was kind of expecting it, but it was still so hype, and I'm glad that there's the collection coming up. I've never played any Metal Gear except for Phantom Pain and 5. And Phantom Pain is like in the middle or like the first one canonically or something. So I really can't wait to experience like the actual full on story on the PS5. And I'll be honest, man, Marathon got me intrigued because if there's something that Bungie knows how to do is PvP, and I have faith that this PvP is gonna be insanely great to play, and it's gonna feel amazing because Destiny 2 is just one of the best PvP games out there, first person at least. Uh,
To me, that marathon trailer is the trailer of the show. Like, what a fantastic trailer. Um,
Truly,
yeah,
and so vibrant, so stylized, and it's sci-fi, man. I'm a sucker for sci-fi, and it really kind of hooks you in. You're like wondering like what is going on? What is this game? And then you see someone, like the chain reaction of someone killing someone and then the other person. Uh, and I'll be honest, man, the true highlight of the show was the final shape announcement for Destiny 2. Uh, for me, that was the biggest surprise because we get a glimpse at someone returning that we thought was never gonna return. And I'll be honest, man, I told Macho I got a bit teary-eyed. That's the only trailer that actually got me dropping some tears because I don't know, man, it's emotional. It's
yeah.
it's it's nostalgic. It's really nice. No, man, I love it. I love it. That Destiny lore, that Destiny world has me whew, theorizing, the community theorizing. I've been talking with my bro all week of what does this mean? What does this mean for the greater good, for the traveler, the witness, Savala? We're thinking of things that Bungie might have in store to honor Lance Reddick even more, and I don't know, man. It's great. It's been a great week for the Destiny community. So I've been savoring all of it. I can't wait. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. And a lot of cool indie stuff. Oh my God, I completely forgot. Phantom Blade. Holy shit! When Macho and I were seeing that trailer, a million things went through our minds. Sekiro? Wait, is this like Ghost? Is this from like who is S Games? What the hell? What is this? Who is this? What am I watching? It looks so good, man. Oh my god, that was a surprise, and I'm keeping my eye out for that one. So a lot of good stuff. I liked it. Okay, I wasn't severely disappointed, but I know that my peer reactor could not say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because like going back to like the whole first party thing, and I guess we also haven't really talked about Haven's big reveal as well.
Mm.
But like going back to like the first party thing I feel like I talked myself into seeing things that like when you kind of like look back on it, it's just like there's no way that these things were going to be at this showcase. Obviously factions like we I feel like we were okay to believe that that was going to be there. That's the only one that I'll be like yeah, it's crazy that that wasn't there. Obviously we know why it wasn't now. But like again, just going down the line, like Ben Studio, they literally just got the green light to work on a new IP in 2021. Far too early to see anything out of them. Um, Same thing with like Media Molecule. They just started their new project, right? So it's like way too early. Housemark, they just revealed I think last year that they confirmed that they're working on a new IP. Way too early to see anything from them. Um, Even like just kind of thinking about like new IPs in general, like thinking back to Horizon, it took 6 years to make Horizon Zero Dawn, a brand new IP for Gorilla. Sucker Punch as well. The gap from infamous Second Son to Ghost of Tsushima was 6 years, right? So like, and so I'm thinking about all these teams that are making new IPs, and it's like just thinking back, it's like, man, maybe it's not a surprise that we didn't see any of these brand new projects that all these teams are confirmed to be working on. Uh, so like yet, Um, so yeah, just kind of like thinking on that, it's like, man, maybe I should have been a little bit more realistic. Um,
Nah, you
well,
had expectations, Soul?
I mean,
Nah.
not crazy expectations. Even Ghost of Tsushima 2, I said we're probably not going to see at the showcase. It feels too early to see that. I
Hmm.
said that in the video that I posted before the showcase.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, so like there were some aspects where like I felt like I was reasonably like realistic in terms of like, yeah, we probably won't see these games. But then there was other things where like the Corey Barlog thing, I talked myself into. I blame myself for that. I talked myself into that a little too much. And I think the Herman Holtz tweet kind of makes sense now because it feels like in retrospect he was like kind of like getting that out of the way of like we're not gonna see this at the showcase, but don't worry, Santa Monica is working. They got some other things in the oven right now. So like I feel like that tweet was like strategically like put out there to kind of like kind of keep us like calm. Like, yes, you won't see anything from that. You won't see the Corey game at the showcase, but like, don't worry. Like, the things that they got in the kitchen right now is pretty cool. Um,
The cook.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But Brad, what about you, man? How did you feel about the absence of like the first party stuff? Like, were you disappointed? Were you expecting a lot more first party stuff to be shown as well, or are you a little bit more like you understand why we didn't get some of the things that we thought possibly could have been there?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely disappointed. My expectation again after 2 years was they were going to come with first party stuff to show us, and if you believe that Tom Henderson report that he's seen trailers from first party that weren't at the show, it's kind of a head scratcher for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was definitely disappointed. Like that. That is why. That's again like 2 years since the last show. I'm thinking they're sandbagging content. They're gonna
Right.
show up with a lot more first party, but I also understand too that they're not going to show anything that's not ready to be shown, and there seems to
Right.
be, I think at least with Jim Ryan, seems to be that they don't want to show things that are too far out,
Yeah.
and that they want to show things that are closer to release per se, and uh, look, look, I'm okay, and we talked about this on BRAP on Wednesday. Like, I know B Money doesn't like seeing, just CGI footage, of games that aren't coming out anytime soon. I'm all for that.
Me too.
you
Me
know,
too.
I want to be hyped. I want that E3, that kind of E3 experience we used to get. But I'm also, and I said this on Crossfire, I think we're at a point now where things are changing. Like, we're not probably going to have those. Like, E3 was an event that happened once a year, so you almost had to show up with your big guns
Yeah.
because it was the only event. It was it. That was it. It was, you had one time. You had one time to show off your goods. Now with social media, you can do that at any point
Yeah.
and have a lot of. I think there was like 1 million people watching the PlayStation Showcase stream on the YouTube US PlayStation channel. That was just 1 million in the US. Imagine, and I don't know what it was in Japan or the rest of other parts of the world, but
Right.
I mean, think about 1 million people watching your show.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And now with social media, and you see it with the showcases. Gosh, and I remember when Nintendo left E3, I'm like, Nintendo's dumb. And, and then when Sony left, I'm like, what is Sony doing? Why are they leaving E3? I'm like, well, they can have that impact without having to spend money on renting the shows, the
Yeah.
floor space, and getting everything together and building a stage and all the money that goes into putting on a showcase like that at E3. They can have probably more impact leveraging social media and showing their games at whatever point, at any point. I mean, think about this. I mean, if they were to 3 months from now, if Sony says, okay, we're ready to show Factions too, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people chomping at the bit to watch that live stream,
Yeah. For sure.
and they could just do that. So I think that's part of it too, where for me at least, I just, and again, I came to this realization as we were having this conversation on Crossfire last night that maybe times are changing and that E3 like experience is probably gone, and companies can now have a tremendous impact you leveraging social media to get the word out about certain games that are coming out soon. And I think that's just the new world that we live in. I think COVID maybe COVID accelerated that a bit. And you look at like Jeff Keighley's approach to the Summer Games Fest. A lot of it is it's not this in person event per se. It's all driven by social media.
Yeah.
So I think I think that's probably what Sony's going to do. They're going to have these showcases for games when they're ready to be shown, and have those dedicated showcases. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another showcase for Spider-Man, because the other thing that was kind of interesting about Spider-Man is we didn't get an exact release date. We got a release time frame, fall 2023. I thought we'd actually get a release date, but I'm thinking that they're probably going to do a separate state of play for Spider-Man 2 where we actually get that release date. And you got to imagine there's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of like Spider-Man 2 collector's edition.
Yeah.
Because I think didn't they have like the red Spider-Man console, the PlayStation 4? Wasn't that
They
the
did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, but then they would save that for a state of play. So again, my point is that the times are changing. I mean, the day of having these big events where you only had one chance to flash and make an impression at E3, and that kind of pretty much set the tone for the rest of the year for your platform. You don't have to rely on that anymore. You can communicate, engage with your consumer at any point during the year.
Yeah.
And
For
that's
sure.
just the and look, I don't like it. I want to be wowed. I remember getting excited for E3 and the 2-hour press conferences and seeing all those surprises. That's what I want. But
Yeah.
I just don't think we're there anymore.
Yeah. It was
I,
an
I
event. It was a global event.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point to point out this sort of new regime with Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst, that and we talk about this a lot on this podcast, that it seems like they have changed the sort of gap of like between announcement and release. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at the 2020 PlayStation Future Gaming event, all the first party games that were revealed in that showcase, from Horizon to Ratchet to Returnal, Gran Turismo 7, Sackboy, Destruction All Stars, Demon Souls, all those games, right? that they were revealed in 2020 and they were out before 2022. So for whatever reason, whether right or wrong, they've shortened that when they're no longer doing the Last of Us Part 2 thing where they announced it in 2016 and it's not out until 4 years later, right? Or even Ghost of Tsushima, where that game was announced in 2017, it's out 3 years later. So yeah, they've definitely shortened that window. Whether and I don't know yet. I don't know if I like that because it has its pros and cons, right? Because I agree. I want to see things that are super far out. I want to see, what I'm selfish. I want to see what Neil Druckmann's next game is, whether it is coming out in like 2026. Like I don't care. I want to see it. I want to be excited. For
Yeah,
whatever that.
we all want to see that. Like we want to see that roadmap. Like, and that
Yeah.
was the other thing too. Like I felt like this was again the first showcase in 2 years. I think the first one was to kind of give us a roadmap of what's coming for the first half of PlayStation, the PlayStation 5 life cycle. And my expectation was the second showcase would show us what's going to be on the latter half of the PlayStation
Yeah.
5's console life cycle, and I just didn't see that.
Me too, because the thing is that we've had since I'd say like 2020, we've had teams like Blue Point, Housemark, Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Media Molecule, Santa Monica Studios, Gorilla have all released first party games since 2020. It feels like in a lot of ways like the chamber is a little empty because yeah, we've had all these teams release games in the last few years. So I think the biggest expectation for a lot of us, and you included BRAP, was that this would be the showcase where the gun would kind of be reloaded again, and then we'd finally get to see, what's like in the chamber, so to speak. And yeah, just for whatever reason, we didn't get that. But yeah, it does feel like they are reloading their gun a little bit because yeah, they had so many teams already, you know, release things. And I think that's sort of it's an interesting thing to like compare it to Xbox where like they they still haven't had that moment where they are unloading all these games.
Well,
They're still working towards that. So it's interesting where Sony has already released a bunch of these first party content, and they're kind of empty right now, and they're kind of like reloading themselves. Whereas Xbox is like, it feels like they're gearing up towards that moment where like they can finally like just unload all this first party stuff.
well,
Um, so yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting comparison there. Um, I wanted to move on specifically to Haven. We haven't really talked about them too much. So Haven and Macho, I got to give you your flowers on this because that was the team I was not expecting to be here at all. This team literally just built a studio in 2021, and so I was just like, there's no way that they're ready to show anything, but they showed something. Fair Games, which is like a futuristic like heist game, multiplayer heist game.
Well, I just
So
I just want to say real quick that my source was correct.
yeah,
PlayStation has said it now.
your sources trust me, bro.
I told you guys Haven's gonna be there. Y'all was like, whatever. What was the first thing that popped up? Haven. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah, okay,
Are you excited
all
now?
right.
I'm glad.
oh well, that's the thing. That's the thing we gotta talk about. So this is received mixed reception. Brap, what about you? Seeing Haven pop up as the show opener too, mind you, which I think is important context because I feel like there's certain expectation when you with the very first game that you reveal, right? In the 2021 showcase, they opened with KOTOR, which is a really really big announcement. Thinking back to E3 2016, they opened up with God of War and and then the orchestra, right? So like there's a precedence to this. What did you think about Haven's big reveal showing off Fair Games for the first time?
It was cool to see what Jade Raymond and company is working on. I mean, obviously, Sony had caught a whiff of what they're working on, decided to bring them on board as a first party studio. Um, you know, I'm not I can't make a I'm not going to make a definitive statement about what I think. Well, I I guess the best way to say is I want to learn more about the game before I make
Right.
any kind of make an opinion on what they showed. I thought the idea of a I did described it as a modern day, like it's an opportunity to break rules. It's a modern day Robin Hood. If you're someone who's looking to do heists, you collect loot, and this big world. I mean, that all sounds nice on paper. I'm interested in the execution, delivery of it, and how it's going to work out. So it's definitely on my radar. I'm definitely interested in more. It could be something that's cool to play with friends, but I definitely want to learn a little bit more about the game. So again, I think that's going to be something we'll learn more at these state of plays.
Yeah, for sure. Macho.
But I'm sorry, real quick. I also
Go ahead.
think it's interesting that they opened up. You mentioned like last time they opened up with KOTOR, they opened up with this. It also speaks to Sony's. We know there's been a lot of chatter and conversation about Sony's commitment to games as a service.
Yeah.
It was interesting that's kind of a focal point of theirs, and I don't have an issue with them doing that. I know some people are afraid that they're going to get away from making single player content because of that 60-40 split that's going out there, but they are. I mean, look, the pot's bigger. They're increasing the amount of money they spend on single player content too. I mean, that's not going away, and so long as they can sell those games. There's a market for their first party content, and I don't see that market going away. Just like Nintendo, there's a market for Nintendo first party games. I think Nintendo is getting not Nintendo. I think Sony's getting to that point where if you look at the sales numbers of their first party content, they're almost hitting Nintendo numbers now.
Yeah.
So if you just look at how the market's reacting to their first party content, there's demand for there. Unless that demand goes away, like I don't see them saying, "Oh, we're not going to make those games anymore."
Right.
Because they're one of the few outside Nintendo that can make really great first party story driven games and have those games sell well. I don't see them just abandoning ship. What I do see them is diversifying the portfolio, and like all businesses do at some point, they do that because these businesses are in the business of making money. And so that's what Jim Ryan's doing. We got to figure out how to make more money. We got to grow the pot. We can't stay stagnant. And again, whether or not you like live services games, this is just Sony, expanding their portfolio of content that they can offer to a variety of different subset of gamers. Because remember, like I think gamers sometimes have a hard time understanding that, we're not always we're not the only consumer. Not every consumer is like us.
Yeah.
Not every consumer is like BRAP. Not every consumer is like Mooch or Slow Mo or Gaming Forte. We all have different we all have different expectations. We like different things, and the gaming pool is so big now.
Which
where
is
it's
why you
evolved.
always see Five Nights at Freddy's show up at a Sony event, which is why you always see that game there. Always.
Yeah, like I got Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't understand that game. My kids will watch like YouTubers stream that game. I'm like, why are you guys watching this? It's such a weird game.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like we all have different tastes, and gaming's so big now, and PlayStation's such a global brand. Of course, they're going to want to tap into other addressable markets, and they want to position themselves to be that platform that offers just a variety of different content that appeals to a variety of different gamers. And again, they're doing it because they're in the business to make money.
Yeah, it's funny that you make that point because like what do we always see people on Twitter say is that Sony always makes the same kind of games, the third person over the shoulder kinds of games, right? And I was like, whether we like it or not, they are technically diversifying their portfolio by expanding into these games as a service. And to be fair, these games as a service they're not all going to be, like Destiny like games. Like we do have things like Twisted Metal that is going to be a games as a service as well. So they are expanding their portfolio. They are kind of doing things on top of the third person over the shoulder games that they're known for. So yeah, I mean they are kind of doing that thing that people always kind of complain about, but like I guess people are like still unhappy too. So
That's one of the reasons why they acquired Bungie. And I know there's a lot of criticism about Bungie looking at what factions is or was
Yeah.
and saying this isn't it. But Sony bought Bungie for that. They bought them. That's why part of that acquisition was I forget how many millions or billions of dollars it was to
Three
retain
billion.
talent
Oh yeah, 1 billion, I think. Right.
to retain existing talent. But that was strategic. I mean, that was, hey, we're not just buying you because of Destiny. We're buying you because of your know-how,
Yeah.
because you guys created a live services game and on the console space, and in a in a within a genre that's very competitive, and you've been able to maintain a level of cadence in releasing software, not software, but updates, content updates for that game. Now, whether or not you like that content on Destiny, or whether or not you like Destiny 1 versus Destiny 2, I think it's a different conversation. But there is some level of expertise that Bungie brings to the table. They started a live service game from scratch, and it's been pretty successful.
Yeah.
Sony acquired that know-how, and so what you're seeing is the synergy. And we hear about the synergy with Sony's internal first-party studios with single-player stuff.
Right.
How obviously there's friendly competition between the studios, but they actually will collaborate with one another at times.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing here with Bungie now. um I don't have issue with them saying, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't it. Let's pump the brakes with factions. Because look, Naughty Dog's never made and it sounds like they were trying to make a live service game with factions. That's not really their expertise, their forte. Um,
Right.
so and so I again, I know there's criticism of whether or not Bungie's the right developer to be critiquing a live services game, but I do think they're the only one that could do it at PlayStation, and I don't mind them QAing those things, because maybe they lead to
A better
something
product.
that, yeah, better product down the line, or
Yeah.
maybe not. We'll see. But at least that conversation is being had. I don't mind that conversation being had. Wait a minute, guys, this doesn't look right.
Exactly. And I feel like we should like champion that sort of quality control, right? Like if they look at a product and they clearly see that something is wrong here and they tell the team I think you guys should go back to the drawing board with this instead of just like letting them continue down the path that they were already going down and then eventually releasing it the way that it was. I feel like that's a really bad alternative, right? Like we should be okay with Bungie looking at it and being like, no, I think you guys need to like rework some things. Like I don't know, that's just me, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no, but I think there's something said for quality. I mean, you look at
yeah,
you look at Nintendo. They're the masters of quality with their first party.
yeah,
Um, you know,
Sir.
we now know that Tears of the Kingdom was ready for release a year ago, but they took an extra year just for added polish.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
for
like,
sure.
in a day, in an age where games are released and they're released with bugs or performance issues, they get patched later. Like Jedi Survivor is a more recent example of that. That's frustrating. I understand there's business decisions why that happens, and I always blame the bean counters for that. That want to get a game off the books as quickly as possible and recoup that, that the money that they fronted to develop a game. Um, but I think Nintendo, I mean, their QA, their focus on quality is just, I mean, they do it the best in the industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah,
It's like that classic Shuhei Yoshida story with God of War as well
yeah, God
too.
of War, yeah, where he's
Yeah,
like, yeah, this isn't it, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's kind of my frustration right now with Xbox. That I don't
yeah.
feel they have. I don't. Look, I don't, and I'm not. I know people get upset when I offer critiques of Xbox, but look, I was an Xbox Live beta tester 20 years ago. For
Right,
those who
right.
don't know, um,
Yeah,
uh, there's been some issues there. I mean, like you think about Halo Infinite. I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but I mean Halo Infinite. I mean that is your tentpole franchise that got you to the game.
yeah.
That is the
That's your
reason
God of
why.
War, your Uncharted,
Yeah,
your
that's
Zelda,
what
right?
there would be no Xbox without Halo, and to see that game have development issues, and then see similar issues with, product management, with Redfall being the first current gen AAA game for the series console platforms, it's disappointing. And again, it's not to say that Microsoft hasn't put out good games. They've had some good games. I've always given them credit there, but we talked about zeitgeist earlier. They haven't released a game that's had that zeitgeist that's a great game yet. And
Right.
that's kind of been my frustration because you look at the 360 generation, you look at the original Xbox the OG Xbox generation. There were games that moved the needle for the platform that really drove people to want to go out and buy the console. And it's not without reason why the Xbox console is in third place. Those things don't happen by accident.
Yeah.
It's the market reacting to the content that Xbox is putting out. And if you don't believe me, look at the performance of the 360 as proof positive of that. So
And Brett, I don't know if this applies to anything, but I think that there's a psychology behind the Game Pass and the whole model of subscription, to where back in the day there was a bit more commitment to these games because you paid full price for them and you want to commit to them. And I think many times right now, because everything is on Game Pass, people maybe don't feel the same compelling, I guess, interest to keep playing a game and keep investing time into it because it's on Game Pass. It's fine. I'll get back to it, kind of thing. I don't know. I've seen just, not that Game Pass is a bad thing. It's a good deal, and it does what it does. But I think there's a difference in the level of commitment that people have when it comes
yeah, I mean,
to paying $70 for Zelda,
yeah,
where you're gonna definitely put in some time into it, versus Halo Infinite. It's on Game Pass. Oh, they'll update it. It's fine, but then you get sidetracked and you kind of just forget about it.
yeah, that's and I'll make this last point. I do have to go, gentlemen. But yeah, I think it would be it's kind of an interesting maybe an interesting case study whether or not that's true, that if you have Game Pass, if the psychology behind Game Pass and your commitment to a game, getting it a la carte or getting it in a buffet style, like,
Hmm.
and that's not to say Game Pass is bad. I know someone's going, oh, you just hate on Game Pass. No, I
Absolutely.
think Game Pass presents a tremendous value proposition for certain gamers, not all. Um, but there could be something said for that. Like, are you psychologically, are you more committed if you've made a $70 investment in a product versus, getting something a la carte? Where you could easily say, yeah, you know what, I'm only paid, I paid $180 a year. In your mind, $180, you already made that investment. Everything else is there. You kind of look at it like free. Like, I'm not paying any addition for it. I've already paid for the service. You can kind of bounce in and out. Like, I think that's a fair question to ask. That could be the case where you don't feel as committed, and I maybe there's some evidence there. If you think about like trophies, and I remember playing Gears of War Hive Busters, which is, by the way, an awesome game.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it more than Gears 5.
Oh wow.
Hive Busters is awesome. Like, I'm like, where's Hive Busters? Like, show me that. If Microsoft shows me like a sequel to Hive Busters in their June showcase, I'm going to be excited. I'll be like, that's going to be a something that I would be a highlight for me for that showcase. Um, but I remember like playing Hive Busters, and it was in Game Pass. I remember the second level, I was popping rare achievements for opening a door.
Mm.
To start that mission on the second level. I'm like, what's happening here?
Right.
People not like the first half of Gears, and they just decided Highbusters decided just to move on. Or is it there's just so much content in there that you start getting not this isn't, I'm not trying to insult anyone with ADD here, but you start getting gamer ADD, and because you have all this choice. I think there's a fair conversations or case studies to talk about. But again, I don't think that's necessarily an indictment of Game Pass being bad. I just think it could be an effect of Game Pass. And again, I'm not saying that's bad, but it could be something that happens.
Yeah,
Yep.
without a doubt, it could be. Yeah, that's really interesting. But yeah, Brap. First of all, thank you for joining us today, man. We really appreciate it. It was definitely like a shot in the dark about sending you that message in the DMs. But yeah, I'm so grateful for you hopping on today. Thank you, man.
No, absolutely. Look, it's my pleasure. Look, anytime you guys want to have me on, I'm more than happy to jump on, and also want to get you guys on BRAP too. I'll have to get you guys on the show as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, this was fun. I really appreciate it. I really apologize. I have to go, but I got to figure out what's happening here with this phone call I got earlier. It's funny. I was talking about this live on the BRAP rant this morning, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a scam, BRAP." But as I've done some research, it may not be a scam, so I need to
Oh,
figure out what's going on here.
yeah,
So
definitely go handle that. Before you go, please plug whatever you want, man.
yeah, no, absolutely no. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much. It really was an honor and a pleasure being here on the show. And
Likewise, man.
yeah, no, absolutely. And look, give me a follow on Twitter if you want to give me a follow at BRAP_podcast. And yeah, come hang out with us on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you Google or go to YouTube and look up Basement Radio Arcade podcast, you can find us. And thank you again, gentlemen. It was a pleasure talking video games with you. I look forward to doing it with you you all again soon.
Absolutely.
Same here,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Same here. Great name for the podcast, by the way. I always loved that
Thank
name.
you.
It's awesome.
Well,
It's that old school feeling.
there's-
I love it.
Well, that's where it comes from. Like my roots in gaming, really started on the Atari, but I also grew up in the day and age of arcades.
Yeah,
And
man. Yeah.
And I got the name Basement Radio Arcade because one, I always looked at like YouTube as kind of like a radio channel.
Yeah.
I always thought of my basement where I play video games as kind of like my adult arcade, and that's how I came up with the name.
I love
then-
that. That's a
and
great,
then I
that's a
gotta
great
credit-
story.
And then I got to credit Mooch with coining BRAP.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And
And
that's
it's
how that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the time and having me on. We'll be definitely, like I said, I have to get you on BRAP as well. So thank you again, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, take care. Yeah, have a
You
great
too.
Take
weekend.
care, brother.
See you,
All right,
man.
Thank you. You too.
So kind of continuing off that, moving down the line, start with you, Macho. What did you think about Fair Games, Haven's big reveal?
I was actually really interested. I was more interested in that than Marathon because I don't know Bungie's history as well, other than Halo and Destiny. But from what I've seen from people talk about Marathon, it gets me more excited just from the blog posts and stuff like that. The art direction for that, like I agree with you. So that art direction for that trailer was incredible. Even if like I had no idea what was going on or like had no inkling, it was just really intriguing. It's like out of all the trailers in the showcase, that was one of the more interesting ones. But there was like I said, there's a lot of peaks and valleys with the showcase, but that was really cool. But for Haven's, intrigued me for the sense of that it was very beginning of Dark Knight kind of vibe to it, where it's like very punchy. You don't really know what's kind of going on, but at the same time, like you're kind of into what's on the screen. And I was digging it, and I like the fact that it's a heist multiplayer, looks to be PvP shooter. I think that's really interesting, coming off the back of like something like GTA 5, where you basically have one goal. So it kind of reminds me kind of like King of the Hill in a sense. I think that's like one of the best PvP modes for any kind of multiplayer shooter. So, but this time's gonna have its own wrinkles to it that Haven's gonna put a spin on it. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm down for it.
That's my thing, is that the heist genre is like my top genre.
Oh, really?
One of literally my book is a heist book.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. Oh, dude. Well, look at you. Look at you.
I
Don't be stealing ideas, okay?
hell no from this. Come on now. I read heist books. My favorite book of all time is The Lies of Locke Lamora, which is again a heist book. So I love the genre.
Have you read Mistborn, by the way? Just to
I have not, but yeah, I know that's a heist book as well.
Gotcha.
But my thing is that yes, I love the genre. Immediately when I saw, because in the trailer, one of the earliest things that they show is like it says like new heist like at the top in like yellow. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm interested in whatever this is. So purely off the basis of that, I'm intrigued. The thing that kills me is that it's like modern day futuristic heist. This would have been my dream game if it was like a medieval heist game where it's like you're playing as like rogues and thieves and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you have
like,
a game like that.
what?
There's a game that's like that. It was like free for PSN a
Oh, it
couple
was like
months ago.
Hood Outlaws or whatever. But come on,
Code
I don't
Outlaws,
wanna-
yeah.
I don't
And
wanna-
that your dream game there?
I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
But
Man's like, I want it. Have it. I don't want it.
but not from them. Not from them.
Okay,
Did you see
okay,
that
okay.
gameplay? Come on now.
Yeah, no, it
Um,
looks pretty bad.
But yeah, so like I'm a little disappointed by it being like, because I don't know, I
Watch
feel like this
Dogs.
exactly. I feel like we've seen this aesthetic before, and it's not my favorite. It's the whole modern day sort of like futuristic, but not cyberpunk. Like even if it was cyberpunk, I would be far more interested in that. But like I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of like modern day ish kind of aesthetic
Did you ever get to
settings.
play Payday?
No, but I know that that game is like really fun apparently.
Yeah, it is. It is literally heist. Well, it is bank robberies,
Yeah.
most of it, but it is heist, and you have the whole thing of putting on masks, and going into a store and surveying, and then you have to go back to your truck and then go back in and kind of put your like traps, and okay, this is the window I'm gonna enter tonight, and then you wait until the night and then you enter the establishment, and if there's people you can put them to the floor and tie them up. It's like the whole experience is there. It's just not as polished as you would like to be. But I do agree that it would be, for me it would be cool, not medieval, but like something in between, like maybe I don't know, like 1950s, 40s, like I don't know, like the height of the Great Depression. I don't know, like something really, I don't know,
Why'd
like
you have that voice, you
I don't
clown?
know.
I, I feel like that'd be boring though, because like
Would it? But
yeah, what
steampunky, like make it steampunky, but in that
oh
time, like a Bioshock Infinite vibe. That's what
okay.
I would like thinking about. Yeah.
I thought you literally meant like literally just take us back to like the goddamn 1920s, and it's like what
At that point, you
tools
just have
realistically, what do you have to use, like a revolver and like a stick of dynamite, like
Assassin's Creed Unity. You have your big missions in Assassin's Creed Unity where you have to enter this big mansion with 4 people.
I
And
remember that was in the 1770s. What are you
yeah,
talking
but it's further back then. God, so I don't know what to talk about. I don't know about history. All I know is that it's between medieval and now. That would
about?
be a pretty cool time period to explore. But the
This
Watch Dogs, I'm not a fan of the Watch Dogs vibe either. It reminds me too much of Rogue Company.
this MFR really thought the French Revolution was in the 1920s. This is wild.
I told you he was a clown and an idiot. That's
Ooh.
wild.
Wow, I yelled. What did I
Um,
ever do to you?
um, but yeah, like I like honestly, I think the premise, and I don't know if they've made this clear in like the blog post or whatever, but I do think the idea of like, what if it's like my team of like robbers and thieves or whatever against Macho's team, and we are both like competing in terms of like whoever robs the bank, for instance, first, right? And it's like a race to go through these multiple steps in order to actually get to the vault at the end of the level or whatever, and whoever gets there first wins, right?
Hmm.
Or even if it's just like one team alone and you're on a time limit to see how fast you can do it, or things like that. I don't know. I think it does sound, it could be really cool depending how they execute it, right? Of course. But again, it's just the
Yeah.
setting that messes me up, man. It's like this has all the components that makes like I don't know, a game in my genre really intriguing, but again, it's just the setting, man. Um, but yeah,
Don't you get the vibe of like already knowing how it's gonna look? Like you know how it's gonna look, and
yeah.
that it's kind of disappointing because then you can imagine the just the cartoonish feel almost of it, like an Overwatch feel. I do enjoy more of like the
Oh,
gritty. Like
I
yeah,
didn't I
that's
didn't
what
get
I'm
that vibe.
imagining.
Really? I didn't You mean art style? Specifically just art
Like the
style?
art style, like it's gonna be very. It's not gonna feel like you're interacting with the environment. Like it's gonna feel like you're just kind of hovering. I hope it feels more like a Mirror's Edge type deal where you can see you interact with like the lock and you're like lock picking or you're like hacking something. Because I like to feel like I'm interacting with the environment if I'm pulling up a heist. Not that I'm just like my hands are hovering and I am press triangle to hack and it's just your character just like idling, just looking at the door. Like I want to have some interaction with the environment, kind of like GTA 5 heist. That was good. That was some good heist.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
I don't know about that. I didn't That's interesting. I thought you meant specifically that like it was gonna look like Overwatch, and I was like, I didn't get
No,
that
no, I
at
don't
all.
think so. I think if anything, it'll look like Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs 2 specifically.
Yeah. Do you guys think this game is coming out sooner than we realize? Because again, going back to giving Macho his flowers, I wasn't expecting this to be here at all, and so like the fact that it was here, and again, kind of thinking back to Sony's trend of like announcing things and having the release like closer together than they have normally done things, that makes me think of them revealing this game here in this showcase means that it may come out sooner than we realize. So do you guys agree, or how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I think so. Because what it seemed like what this showcase was doing was setting a precedent for the other side that Jim Wright's been talking about, what we've been talking about, which is the live service portion of it, and that they're gonna start firing off that gun in early 2024, like throughout 2024, with Haven maybe being something in the summer or maybe fall, and or Concord rather, because that was a really cool one too. They had like a 1980s sort of vibe to it, which was in, like,
What was Concord?
it was the one with the burger.
Was that? Did I write that one down?
The trailer with the burger in it, and then like it had like a really cool like 80s tone to it, kind of like Stranger Things, the 80s vibe to it.
Wasn't that Ultros?
No.
Okay.
But it's another PV. It's the one made by Firewalk, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's another PvP multiplayer shooter. But I think that all that stuff's we're gonna start seeing it like mid to late 2024. But among other things, but yeah, I think those are gonna be firing off because they already had in mind. They already had like the methodology for the development. This is gonna be live service. You know, it's not like with Last of Us where they had no idea what they were doing. These people know what they're doing, and they had that from the get go. So I think they're gonna start firing off on that. 2024.
Yeah, it is interesting because we did have that Sony IR meeting or whatever, and you know they had like one slide where they showed like all their single player games, like their major tentpole franchises like Death Stranding, Ghost, Last of Us, Uncharted, God of War, Horizon. I think Returnal was on that slide as well, and then I think Ratchet as well. And then they had the live service section right next to it, and they had things like MLB. And then they also had Haven's logo on there, and
Yeah.
you know, just seeing Haven's logo on there was like, obviously we knew they were making a live service, but it's like, okay, so maybe this game is kind of like closer than we originally thought. So yeah, that's interesting. Also interesting, yeah, I didn't know. I obviously we haven't really talked about the showcase much, you know, after it happened, so I really didn't know what you guys thought of Fair Games. So yeah, that's interesting that you guys
I'm
were.
surprised you haven't mentioned two games in specific. Specifically starting with Ghost Rider 2.
I was getting to that, baby.
Hey man, like we saw that, we immediately thought, Soul's gonna lose it when he sees this.
Yeah, that was that and Dragon's Dogma was the two games that got the biggest reaction out of me. Yeah, we knew that this was in development. I just never in my wildest days would have imagined that this was going to be revealed here of all places. I thought that
Hype trailer.
yeah, I thought this game was definitely like a PC gaming showcase sort of type of announcement. But yeah, they revealed it here. Super excited for it. Ghost Runner 1 is a fantastic game. Really difficult, but just really fun. So yeah, I'm excited to see how they're gonna like build on top of like, because I don't know if you guys have played the first game, but it's like literally it almost feels like a puzzle game in the sense of like you are put inside this like little small arena, and you have to figure out how to get to point A to point B, uh, simultaneously killing all the enemies in the arena, but at the same time without taking damage. So yeah, it's very much like trial and error, just you trying different paths and timing things correctly and things like that. So I'm very excited to see like, are the levels going to be the same? Are they going to add like more verticality? What's the platforming going to be like? Are they going to add new weapons? Like things like that. So very hyped for Ghost Runner 2. Did seeing this trailer make you guys want to try the first game?
100%.
Yeah.
1000%. I think I might have. Was it free for a period of time somewhere?
Yeah, it was on PS Plus.
Okay, so I might have it, and I haven't downloaded it because it is the kind of game that when you talked about it, I have to be in the mindset to fail a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely more intrigued, and especially because it's cyberpunk. I love the cyberpunk setting, and it reminds me of Mirror's Edge, but more difficult and a bit more fluid in movement. So, and I like Mirror's Edge. Catalyst is the only one I've played, and I hear it's the worst one out of the two, but I still enjoyed it. So yeah, definitely gets me intrigued. I don't know about Macho though. Macho is not crazy with first person games.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, then honestly, didn't pique too much interest for me, but I think the trailer was super cool. It was well done. Like it had me from the get go. But like, whether I'll play it, like I'd rather see like a playthrough of like you play it
Of
or
Soul.
something. So yeah.
See Soul play. By the way, Soul, AC Mirage. Did you have any feelings about that?
None at all.
Not at all. Are you kind of over the whole Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, I don't care
Yeah.
about that franchise anymore.
I got
man.
transported back to like 2008 for the wrong
Yeah,
reasons.
that's look. It's cool that they're going back to their roots, but it's like
A little too late.
10 years too late for me.
10 years too late.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I kept
Which 10
thinking like
years
in my
is-
head too. So watching that trailer, I was like, man, what they could have done, they just kept that foundation, kept it going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, it doesn't. They still made more money with their newer iterations, so it's not like they.
Yeah, because they
felt.
goddamn released 10 DLCs for it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They literally made a second game for their latest game.
yeah.
So
God,
yeah.
I'm such a hater. But yeah, man, that is I think the PlayStation Showcase. I think the general sense that I get from everyone on the panel and BRAP included was it is far from their greatest showcase slash E3 show ever, but at the same time it's far from I think the total disaster that I've been seeing people say that it was. I would honestly argue, and Macho, I'm curious to see if you agree with this. I think the 2021 showcase had higher highs, right? The reveal of Wolverine, KOTOR, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, right? But it had lower lows in that showcase for me, just in the sense of like after Stellar Blade, the next 30 minutes of that showcase, I was out of it. I didn't care what was happening on screen. Whereas with this showcase, again, it didn't have the highs that the 2021 showcase had, but it was more like peaks and valleys, if that makes sense. Where like, okay, cool, Haven Studios new game, and then like the next 3 games I'm not really interested in. But then, oh cool, there's Ghost Runner 2. Oh cool, here's Phantom Blade Zero, and then the next couple games I don't really care about. And then, oh, here's Sea or Sword of the Sea, the next game by Giant Squid. That looks really really cool. I love their games. And then the next 3 games I don't really care about. And then here's Plucky Squire. Oh, cool, cool, cool. And then here's Marathon. And then a string of games I don't care about. And then Dragon's Dogma 2. So does that make sense? Like it was very like peaks
Yeah.
and valleys. How do you guys feel?
That's how I described it from the brief impression we had, where it's like it said it was peaks and valleys. It was like a roller coaster. Like there's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm excited, no, I'm bored. No, I'm excited, no, I'm bored.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of capped out a couple of times. I think in the reaction video you can see me looking at my phone when like Cat Quest came on. And Five Nights
Hey,
at
Flynn
Freddy's.
was excited for that.
Yeah. And Five Nights at Freddy's. When
Yeah,
that came
yeah.
out for like the millionth time, like I get it, right? It's a association thing, but like that's I feel like how many damn times have we seen Five Nights at Freddy's at a PlayStation showcase at this point?
It is always
Twice.
It is
Really?
always like
Yeah, because there was security breach and now Hilt won it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I think the thing is that security breach was shown off multiple times. I think and like state of
Right,
play as
right.
well.
Yeah, because
that
it was the
game-
first person like you can walk around.
yeah.
FNAF.
That franchise, for whatever reason, it just like check the views. It always does numbers, man. People love
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's still.
There's a movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking of that, showing a goddamn movie trailer in a game showcase.
Yeah, that
my
was
God.
one of my over under sort of questions I asked you guys that I was not happy about being right about.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Man, I really, really think, Soul, and I told this to Macho, if that would have been in a God of War announcement for TV show or Ghost TV, if it would have been anything else but Gran Turismo, y'all wouldn't be salty about it.
well, I'll tell you right
I
now.
fuck-
I'll
I
tell you
know
right
it.
now. You're damn wrong. Because I don't want a movie.
No.
I don't want a movie or a TV. No, I do
It's
not want.
based on a
No, no, no,
damn
no, no, no,
game.
no, no, no. I'm gonna cut this out right now. I don't want no movie or TV trailer in my goddamn game showcase. This ain't Xbox.
Yeah.
This ain't Xbox. I don't want that.
I agree with that.
Oh wow. All right, boy.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Just because it's like we already saw a trailer like not too long ago, so it didn't really.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
was mostly the
was-
point. We saw a trailer recently. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it just felt
Okay.
so out of place, and that's kind of how I felt about all the hardware stuff at the end too. It's like I
oh
didn't need
god, we
this.
didn't even talk about
here.
that shit.
Yeah. So yeah. Do you guys really quickly want to go through the over under, see how we did on that?
Sure.
Do you have it up? I
Uh,
don't have it up.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Okay.
Actually, we can even go through our predictions to see how wrong we were.
But
Um,
Walt got 3 on his bingo card, right? Well, I think he got
You
like
know
3.
what? I think Cognito might have done the best too.
I think he did too. Yeah, I got like 7 or 8 predictions, but that wasn't saying much either.
So let's see, Cognito. I don't know what because I'm looking at the what you have on Discord. I don't know what PSVR2 games mic drop is. Oh, as in like the shadow drop.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's what he meant by that.
Half
We
Life
didn't have that.
Alex, like stuff like that.
Gotcha. So we didn't have that.
We only got
Um,
like 4 or 5 PSVR2 games here, which was
Yeah.
weird.
Right. So he did say that Bungie would show up, so he was right about that. And then the hardware segment, which we got as well. So he got that. We didn't get Ghost of Tsushima 2 reveals. So all in all, Lord Cognito had 2 out of 4 predictions that came true. For me, I was 0 for 4. I said that we would see That's No Moon's next game. Actually, no. My second prediction was we wouldn't get an update on Knights of the Old Republic, and I was right about that. Number 3, I said Team Asobi would show up. They did not. And then number 4, I said we would see Gen Design's next game, which we did not. So I was 1 for 4. Walt, you said T-Lu Factions reveal. We didn't get that. Yakuza reveal. Didn't get that. Asher's Wrathport. We didn't get that. And Bloodborne remake / update. We did not get that.
Yes,
Walt,
sir.
to no one's surprise, 0 for 4.
Yeah. I
Um,
love how I got the least correct, and I'm still the happiest.
Macho, you said Spider-Man 2 opens the show. Co-op and release date revealed. We got none of that. Final
Well, you
Fantasy
got
VII
he got shut down. He got told there ain't no co-op, boy.
Yeah.
Right before the release.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gameplay trailer and release early 2024. We did not get any of that. GTA 6 reveal.
Yeah.
We did not get that. And Sly Cooper trilogy remake. I'm gonna be honest, I was rooting for you with that one. I didn't get it.
Of course you were, you sick furry.
Hey, yo. 0 for 4 on that. Moving on to the over/under game that we had. At the showcase, do we see 2 or more Marvel games? I said under, Macho said under, and Walt said under. We only got Spider-Man 2, if I remember correctly.
Yep, so we
Um,
won.
Yep. 4 live service games will premiere specifically from PlayStation Showcase. I said over, or sorry, from PlayStation Studios. I said over, Macho said under, and Walt said over. If I recall correctly, we only got 3, which was Helldivers, Fair Games, and Concord.
Okay, so Helldivers is a live service then.
Yeah.
Are we counting Marathon though?
Are
No,
we counting
it's not-
Destiny?
It's not PlayStation Studios.
What about okay?
Oh, okay. You're being that
Okay.
specific. Gotcha.
Being
gotcha.
very specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, congratulations.
So I was gonna say
Macho.
Street Fighter is basically live service, right?
Congratulations, Macho. Yay. And then next, we got Hideo Kojima will be on screen for 45 seconds. We all said under, so we got that right. We all got that right.
He technically was in spirit through that remake because that is his baby.
That don't count.
Jeff Keighley would
Uh,
disagree with you.
Yeah, next we said there will be one PlayStation Studios Productions project mentioned. We all said over. This one's a little weird because there was only one. I should have said that there will be 2 because I don't think it really makes sense because over 1, we're technically wrong about that, but there was only one, which was Gran Turismo, was mentioned at the show.
Well,
So
then if it was one or more, but you said over one, so
right. So yeah, we're all technically wrong.
yeah.
Um,
But wow, it's almost like we were expecting kind of to see something that's not game related. Wow, that's crazy.
next, the word mag will be uttered, and I hate to inform all the mag fans out there that it was not said once.
Yes,
Yeah.
all one of you.
Yeah. Exactly.
3 PSVR 2 games will be shown. We all said over, and we were right about that.
Yes, sir.
Um,
We
and
got a
then
couple. Wait, what was the are you interested in the VR for Resident Evil 4, Soul?
hell no.
Okay.
I can barely play through the game normally. What do you think? Um, next, Jim Ryan will say incredible more than once. I'm gonna be honest, I tuned out at this segment, so I actually don't think that he said it at all. Um, but yeah, we'll get back to you on that. There will be 8 PlayStation Studios games shown. Me and Macho said over. Walt, we called you a madman for saying under, and you know what? You turned out to be correct.
They call me a madman. I'm like Thanos right now.
I listened back to the
Oh man.
podcast. You asked him why. He's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, sometimes I don't know why I'm right, okay? Sometimes I'm built like that.
You had a that's a
Um,
Raven future. You're just like,
Yeah. I was like, "Oh."
under.
and then lastly, the showcase will have 2 remakes. And what's funny, I think we only got MGS3.
Yeah, so earlier I was checking if Dragon's Dogma 2 was already like a Japanese title and they were like revamping it for here, but no. Like I checked, but no, this is like Dragon's Dogma 2 is like the first time happening ever. Because I
Yeah.
know Dragon's Dogma Online is a Japanese only game. But we didn't get any real remake. Well, does Resident Evil 4 VR mode count? Because it's technically a remake of Resident Evil 4, but it's in VR.
Um, that's interesting. Macho, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's based off of a remake, right? It's just free DLC for it.
It's
So
essentially a remake
How did
of
how
the
did
game,
how
but it's
did we
VR.
how did we word it? Did we say announce or did we say show up?
I just said that the showcase will have 2 remakes.
Then yeah, I will say yeah, that counts.
So here's the weird thing is that it was exactly 2.
Did you
So
say 2 or over 2?
I think I just said 2. It will
2?
have
Okay.
it will the question is will it have over or under 2 remakes? I said over, Macho said under, and Walt said over. So that's the weird thing is that will it have over 2 or under 2? I guess nobody
So I
is
feel
sure.
like this is something that it has to be this or more or under this. So that would have made it because then let's say you get a lot of exact, counts,
Yeah,
then you're
yeah.
gonna have multiple failures.
Right, right. So yeah, that's definitely something that will
So you and I won, basically. Macho lost. Yeah, it's fine.
okay, I guess.
I love how he quickly agrees. Okay.
But yeah, so that's the over under game. Like we said last podcast, we'll do this again for Summer Games Fest.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's move on to some of our other topics. Let's see here. We can get through this one pretty quickly. I don't know if you guys saw this. Alan Wake 2, which I think was another game that looked really, really cool at the showcase. It's gonna be a digital only release. Did you guys see this?
Wait, really?
Yeah,
That's
$60.
Did you know
interesting.
this, Macho?
I saw inklings about it, but I just kind of skimmed over it. I didn't think it was valid. That's
What?
interesting.
Yeah,
That's
so it's gonna
weird.
be a digital only release. There was actually this one company, it wasn't limited run, but it was like some other company that was like they like specifically tweeted to Remedy. They're like, hey, like we have no issue doing the physical release for this game. Like we want to do it or whatever. Um, I don't know if they responded to it, but yeah, I don't know if I've seen a major game like that do that. You know what I mean? Do you guys have any other examples of this happening with a major game?
With a major game, what constitutes just like highly known?
I mean, I guess like a triple A, any
A tr-
triple A.
Oh no, triple. Now I know indies do it all the time, but like I've
Yeah, of
never,
course, indies do it, but
but like I don't know. Macho, do you have anything in mind?
Nah.
So I'm
Mm-mm.
thinking Hi-Fi Rush. Is Hi-Fi? No, Hi-Fi Rush is not.
It's double
Is
A.
it? It's not double A, right?
That's a double A title. um, yeah, I don't know. I think this is kind of weird. I honestly think they'll kind of backtrack on this, honestly, and then we'll get a physical release. A lot of people are going to be asking for that, especially for people that are, are internet impaired and can't really download these games like that. Because the way that game looks, that game's going to be chunky, man. It looks
What's it gonna be?
chunky. It looks phenomenal. But that it's gonna
Amazing.
push some graphical limits, especially. Oh my god, you saw Sam Lake in that
You're getting
trailer.
a demo.
Like the details is really crazy. So I
yeah,
imagine that they're gonna get a physical release for this one down the line or close to release. But the fact that it's like digital only, it's like at this point means that it's coming in fast, man. It's pretty impressive, honestly.
yeah. I
I
mean,
didn't think
it's
we get
yeah,
into this game
looking
that
forward.
early.
Yeah, it's coming in October, so
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that's Alan Wake 2. Let's move on to Naughty Dog. This is probably I think our last topic. I don't know. Um, so yeah, one of the games that I think we all thought was a shoo-in for the showcase this past week was seeing the Last of Us multiplayer game. Um, it's funny we all call it factions, but literally every time that's said to Neil, he always corrects that person. It's like, nope, nope, Last of Us multiplayer game. But yeah, so we all expected it to be there at the showcase. It was not, and it kind of left a lot of us, wondering like, where is this game? Like, what's going on? Um, and then on Friday, Naughty Dog came out with a statement. Let me see if I can pull it up here really quickly. Um, Give me 1 second. Okay, I got it right here. Okay. So, they said, quote unquote, The Last of Us fans, we know many of you have been looking forward to hearing more about our Last of Us multiplayer game. We're incredibly proud of the job our studio has done thus far. But as development has continued, we've realized what is best for the game is to give it more time. Our team will continue to work on the project as well as our other games in development. Games plural, including a brand new single player experience. We look forward to sharing more soon. We're grateful to our fantastic community for your support. Thank you for your passion for our games. It continues to drive us. So they released that. Uh, Obviously, a lot of people were mad. um, and then we had Bloomberg come out like I think a few hours later with their report saying that Sony has scaled down the team working on that project and has that team those people who were moved off the project have now kind of gone off to work on other projects within Naughty Dog. Um, and then we found out, I think within that same article, that Bungie seems to have played a bigger role in this than I think anyone kind of thought, which was they were kind of asked to look at this project, kind of the thing that Sony acquired them for to do in the first place. They looked at this and they voiced concerns over the game's ability to engage players long term, essentially, and that has thus basically made Naughty Dog take the game back to the drawing board. It seems like reassess what this game is actually going to be. So yeah, that's sort of the context for what's going on with Naughty Dog slash The Last of Us multiplayer game. Macho, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. So what's going on with you, man? What's your sort of opinion on everything that was revealed yesterday?
Sorry, there's a motorcycle going by. Um, where do I even begin, man? I'm so disappointed. It's not even like I was legit mad. I was mad tweeting yesterday, and Walt knows because he saw a grammatical error in my tweet and decided to be a dick about it. Um,
Hey man, I'm there
and
when you need me the most. Okay.
I hate you.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, no, it was super disappointing just because as a day one Last of Us factions fan, like from the PS3 days, I've been waiting for like a new faction experience since The Last of Us 2 was announced. Like one of the first conversations I've seen going around from the podcast I follow was like how faction's going to be like and how they're going to change it up, what kind of new modes they're going to be adding, if they bring back the classic modes, the classic maps, whatever case may be. And it's just been waiting. And Naughty Dog's honestly has been in my, for lack of a better term, shit list since The Last of Us Part 2. Not because of my indifference with it, or rather just sort of like my own like personal gripes with it. It was just more on the terms of like the way, like the rollout of its release, where we had that gameplay showcase and it was definitely delayed soon after that showcase, and then it leaked crazy, not only just story leaks but also factions leak, that there's actually factions gameplay in that leak that I saw, and then they just up in the blue just released it, and then
Wait, they up in the blue released what?
Last of Us 2. Like right after that, the leak happened is when they announced the release date for Last of Us Part 2. Before that, it was indefinitely delayed. We didn't know when it was coming out.
Wait, so are you insinuating that like something nefarious was like that was like a strategic thing that like
No,
that
no, no,
they
no,
only
no,
released
no.
it because of the leaks?
I think they wanted to push it out because of the leaks. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like saying that if they truly just wanted to push it out, then like the game would have been buggy and broken. Like that's what pushing it out just like that's what that implies.
Then
To me,
no,
at least.
no. It's just again it's just money. I'm just going through the timeline of like why like I haven't been really hot with Naughty Dog.
Okay.
It's then releasing Last of Us remake on PC broken. It's just a whole bunch. It's just a laundry list of things they've been doing for the past couple of years. I'm just like, yeah, Insomniac and Sucker Punch are more higher on my list of PlayStation Studios developers I'm more hyped about. Seeing the releases, and then it's the constant delay with Last of Us factions, wherever Neil wants to call it, and just saying like, oh, it's being worked on. You guys excited? We have more information soon. More information soon. It's been a constant like ongoing. I get the whole like narrative that people want to say like, oh, they don't owe you like information and stuff like that. Like I get it, fine, but as fans of this kind of stuff and expecting it from The Last of Us Part 2 and it not being there, saying it's going to be a standalone title, and then just getting little to no information, just getting concept art, and now this, where it seemed like they even know what they're doing with the live service game or for a standalone multiplayer game. I don't know what they had in mind for it. It's just so confusing. It's so baffling. It's just it's annoying and it's frustrating because we were supposed to get this thing soon after Last of Us Part 2. That never happened because it just seemed like they didn't know what to do with it. And now they had this thing probably built out. Maybe it's 50% done. Maybe it was close to being done. We have no idea. And then Bungie comes in and says, hey, this is actually shitty. This is not going to keep people engaged no matter how good the IP is. So now they had to apparently go back to the drawing board. Now
This is your champion.
yeah, I mean, essentially. But now they just downscaling the project or the people in the project. So what does that exactly mean? Is this like a Fire Sprite, right? Where they just laid off 90 people and
No, deviation.
deviation, excuse me. Is it like a deviation thing where we're kind of like having the conversation of, well, is this game canceled? Is who's going to take over the project? Is it the same thing here now where we have no idea when this thing's coming out and they get to actually go back to the drawing board and see how they're going to make this thing live past a year? Like, it's so frustrating, and I think it's going to be canceled first of all because Naughty Dog they probably just don't have the manpower for it, or the resources for it, because they said in that blog post, which they wanted, in my opinion, they wanted to divert the whole the news cycle that, oh, it's not just the Last of Factions being in trouble, but we have multiple games in development. If you look at any other headline from yesterday, it was new Naughty Dog game development, Factions in trouble, or whatever case may be. Like that's the new headline. That's what people are gonna get up on, and it worked. Yesterday, a lot of
Yeah,
people
fear hungry.
Sure, yeah, maybe I don't know, but either way, but people were just replying that post that Naughty Dog did that tried and true freaking white background and saying like a paragraphs of information of saying how we're sorry, we were gonna blah blah blah, what the case may be. But a lot of people are replying, oh, let him cook. I want a single player anyways. Like why, dude? Like, why are you guys giving them excuses because they just said they're working on other games? Of course they're working on other games, and of course it's going to be a Last of Us Part 3 because they're directly saying this message to Last of Us fans. So it's just baffling to me that the kind of communication that they're doing. Like, I appreciate since the clarity for this kind of post, and I understand that game development's hard. They probably had a lot of back and forth and don't really know what to kind of do with this thing. But if that's the case, just say that, man. Like, gamers will understand that point of view if you're having trouble with this thing. At like Final Fantasy 14, and again, I know I'm the Final Fantasy guy, and it's kind of like roll your eyes, but this is what they're known for. That's why people love Yoshi P and respect that community and that team, because they're open and honest and clear about how development's going, what they're doing, and how far it is to develop these kind of things. And it's why I'm giving kudos to the Diablo 4 team as well, because they're doing the exact same thing right before release. So why can't Naughty Dog do the exact same thing for their live service game that's supposedly in
I
development?
think it's because this is their first live service game versus someone like Blizzard or Square Enix. They've been in this game for years already, and they know what they're capable of and what they aren't of.
Well,
I'm not making it.
no, that's a
But
fair
I'm not
point.
making
It's a
excuses.
fair point.
I'm not making excuses for Naughty Dog. However, I appreciate this level of clarity more than 2 years ago when we barely got anything, and they were talking about closing PlayStation stores and dropping these things, and they quickly had to backtrack on a lot of them. And I feel like now I prefer the, hey, we're gonna have to cut back on time, and we're gonna have to push this a bit forward, and we're gonna have to. I'm glad that Bungie stepped in. They are the just how we talk about battle royales and Fortnite and Epic being like the standard. Bungie set the standard for live service for the last 10 years, and I think them being like, hey, okay, so this what you got, this ain't it. Okay, I appreciate the ambition, I appreciate the vision, however we need to make something sustainable, because I wouldn't doubt that Naughty Dog probably makes something overly ambitious to the point where you're going to burn this candle too quick, and you're going to make people want more too quickly because you have a very passionate fan base. And again, I think Neil and everyone involved are very, I'd say they're perfectionists. And if something's not ready to be shown, and if they think that Bungie said this ain't it, they're gonna listen to the person that knows what they're doing with live service, because they don't know jack shit. At least they're not proud of it. It's like, oh, Bungie told us it was bad, but we're gonna keep going with our vision. It's like the equivalent of, oh, we're gonna still make the Netflix Avatar Last Airbender series, but the creators don't agree with it, but we're still gonna go with it. And now you're like, oh, like
Yeah, that'd
even be
stupid.
good, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I understand your point. It's just the
but I
only.
think it's frustrating. It is frustrating when we are not. Again, I think like put CEO cap on. There's a marketing team for a reason, and there's phrasing for a reason. You can either get an interview like Phil Spencer's where it's like, yeah, this ain't it, or you can get a, we're working on it, everything will be fine. But then you get all these red flags. It's, each company has their own style, and I always harken back to Sony. Their roots stand in the Japanese tradition of being very prideful and very like a good image of themselves. And I think they try to imitate that the parent origin of that. But because you never hear Nintendo say like anything, they're always like, oh, everything is perfect, and then they deliver. And I think with Naughty Dog is the old saying of, they talk through their games, and communication has never been their strong suit. So
Yeah,
I'm not
but
surprised, but
well,
I am
my
frustrated.
my kind of point, at least for like the live service things, that they've done multiplayer
Right.
before.
But not live service
Yeah,
multiplayer.
that's
You
different
can
league, though.
because but that's the thing with multiplayer. Back in the day, multiplayer was pretty much all you needed because you didn't really have a lot of competition and a lot of. But after live service was introduced, your multiplayer ain't gonna mean shit because people are gonna get bored in a week because you don't have any incentive to come back to it. And I think that the model, while they can do online, they can't. The model itself of live service, they don't know. I mean, assuming they didn't know how to start it, but now it seems like they didn't really have a sustainable model.
Yeah.
And mind you, maybe we're gonna get something, chef's kiss, but maybe it was gonna last a year. And if you know something about
I
Last
just
of Us and PlayStation fans, they can get feral.
I just don't know for. Well, first, just to be clear, the only reason why they released a statement like that was to get ahead of the Bloomberg article, which had more damning
For
evidence in
sure.
it. So it was damage control, is what it was.
Hmm.
That
And
entire
that's why you
post was
got those
damage control.
teams.
That's
Yeah,
your
That's
job, though.
exactly. But and that's another thing I try to, and Macho, mind you, I had this issue with Nintendo all the time where I had to distance myself from them and think, wait, I know it's like a parasocial relationship when you like with a YouTuber where you're like, oh my god, I know so much about them. They don't know shit about you. They're just there to make money. And I think about Naughty Dog like, hey, we need to take care of our team. For me, it's like take care of your people first. Take care of your game devs because game devs are the people that suffer the most in this whole thing. We consumers don't suffer shit. We just suffer waiting. Oh wow, we have so many other games
what
to
does that have to
play.
do with anything then?
Yeah, what's the
It's
correlation?
the correlation being that I don't people have to like not think about wait no but they keep delaying this, they keep like this is gonna get canceled. No, just think about like sorting your shit out internally. And like for me, I don't get mad because of that, because I'm thinking of they're sorting everything internally and getting the right people on the job and hopefully no massive layoffs or
Yeah, but they
nothing.
so my problem with Naughty Dog is that they have this problem for years now. They had it with
Of
Last of
what?
Us 2. They had it with Last
With
of Us
what?
remake.
With what?
They released a broken port.
Oh,
Last of
Not
Us
broken.
remake on PC was broken.
All right, but
but this
Last
is
was
not a
Part
port
2.
though.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Factions is not a port.
It doesn't matter. The Last of Us remake, it was broken. Clearly they don't know what they're doing with certain development projects.
Yeah, that's why they're pushing it. That's why they're like, hey, we gotta stop. Well, this ain't it. Imagine if they couldn't do a port
Again,
for a single
I'm not
player
mad.
game.
I'm not mad that it's delayed or that it's pushed back. I'm mad. I'm upset with Naughty Dog for the fact that they seem to just be incompetent at this point when it comes to
Wait,
their
wait, wait, wait,
release for the games, and
wait, wait.
it's aggravating.
So let's be clear. Last was Part 2 was not broken on
No,
PS4. Last was Part 1 on PS5, not broken on PS5.
right.
Last was Part 1 on PC, who they did have a co-development partner with to help them port that over to PC. Yes, totally fair. It was an absolute shit show on PC.
And
Absolutely.
Last of Us 1 remastered on PS4 and Last of Us on
Well,
PS3.
just talking about their recent things. So
Okay,
I'm just saying, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate a
okay.
little bit, Macho. But yeah, just I think to insinuate that they've been incompetent for like the last few years. Absolutely, Last was Part 1. Yes, totally fair. But Part 1 on PS5 and Part 2 on PS4, they were, I would say, even more stable than Horizon Forbidden West, Returnal. Like those, when Naughty Dog is working solely on PlayStation, like they make stable, probably the most stable goddamn products like in the industry.
Right.
Okay, then
It's just
it,
I
it's
think it's
it,
the port that really fucked you up.
no, it's not. It's not. I guess the way I'm trying to phrase is the priority in these kind of things like for the releases, because before we even got factions, we got another remake from them, and that's what's egging me on too. The fact that and I get why, it's because of the show and because they want to put a new release on PS5. Blah, 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 I get it, but like, why is it all coming out before factions, which was something that was already promised to Last of Us fans before or right around the release of Last of Us Part Two?
Here's the reason, because it's far quicker to do that than probably the the gargantuan monster that, because again, we know how Naughty Dog is. Take Lost Legacy for example. That was supposed to be a DLC, and then Naughty Dog being the way that they are, they blew it up and it became its own like competent Uncharted game, right? And I imagine with the multiplayer game, it's the same thing where it started out as this small thing and it just grew and grew and grew over time into something. Even Neil's talked about that this thing even has its own story with its own brand new cast of characters that we've never seen before. This thing has clearly grown into something bigger than what it originally was. So of course a PS5 graphical uplift version of the original The Last of Us is going to take way quicker to do than whatever this multiplayer game is currently. And it's something
And
that they've never done before too. So it's like it's the same thing with why new IPs always take so much longer to do than sequels or whatever, right? Because it's like you're basically starting from scratch. You have to figure out like everything from scratch, and it's kind of the same thing here with they've never done a yes, they've done multiplayer, but they've never done a live service game. So it's like they literally have to figure all these things out before they actually set these things in stone. So it's just like just natural that this thing would take a really long time to develop.
and mind you, we don't even know, because I'm thinking, I've had to really learn how to like not think about the old factions, because the old faction was a 4v4. It's a small map, and you have crafting, and you kill each other, and that's it. Okay, good. We don't know what this is gonna be. We don't
Yeah.
know the scale of
Which
this revamped factions.
which is why I think is another reason why Neil is so insistent on not calling it factions. I think it's going to
Right.
be similar, in gameplay, and obviously it's in the Last of Us universe. But I am expecting this to be different from what factions was on PS3 and PS4.
Right. Bigger for sure. And if we go by concept art is exactly that. It's the concept that all the departments share the vision for. And if there's something that this concept art showed was scale. It looks like it's getting an overly ambitious project where you don't have just someone like meleeing someone in the corner and like there's someone around. No, it's like a whole city. There's a dust storm on the side. There's probably clickers around. There's scale to it, and I think that they really don't want to mess around when I do think they acknowledge that poorly made port and the controversies around The Last of Us Part 2, so they know that the fan base is somewhat volatile. Not that they're bad, just that they're very passionate. So they're being very,
Some of them are
very,
bad.
very they're being cautious about it. So also, I think if anything, I'm all for not even delays because we don't even have a set date. So it's just the fact
This
that we
thing
don't
hasn't
get
even been announced,
information.
first of all. So
What's up?
this thing hasn't even been announced, first of all.
Right. It's just talked about, and I think that's a big, I'm not it's the whole Metroid Prime 4 shit, where it's like, don't talk about the damn game if you're at least not like a year from release, or at most 2 years, at the most.
Yeah.
It is frustrating when you get these announcements like Kingdom Hearts, where it took, I don't know how long, nearly a decade to get
No.
at the third game.
Well, yeah, but like we said before, how can you anticipate something that doesn't even really exist?
Exactly, and that's the kind of the mentality of like, as a fan, I'm like, I try to, okay, they haven't announced it, I'm not gonna think about it, but then you see these posts, how you say the infamous white background and the red framing on the side, and you're like, oh no, it's like the whole cyberpunk thing all over again. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, no, the yellow card. But
except
I
this
don't
thing
think
except
it's
this thing like does exist, and we knew about it
right.
because people asked about it right from the get go before Last of Us 2 even released.
And that's
But
the
I don't think
double
it's gonna get canceled. I
that's the
really,
double-edged sword right there, is that like I feel like that's the main issue right there, is that we've known about it since 2019. To their
yeah,
credit, it hasn't been announced, right? So it feels like that thing where like, yeah, if someone asked them about it, we would have known if Last of Us Part 2 released in 2020 and they had stayed quiet all up until that game's release, we would have it would have been a glaring omission. Like, where's factions, right? So like, of course they had to, when they were doing those previews back in 2019, they had to be like, yes, like, we're focusing on the single player of Last of Us Part 2. Factions is something that we spun off, and we're working on that separately, right? They had to address that back then. But like, again, it's the double-edged sword where like, yes, they had to address it, of course, for transparency's sake, but at the same time, it's like, damn, like we've known this for what, almost 4 years now. So it's like kind of like a you're damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, and that's where the frustrating part comes in too. And
Yeah, which
honestly,
is understandable.
yeah, and I think what makes it even worse is like I'm letting you guys know right now, man. When Last of Us Remastered came out on PS4, the first thing I did was go straight to that multiplayer, and I got those
yeah.
multiplayer trophies because I'm just like, I love factions so much. I love that experience. So the fact that we also didn't get, I guess, upres factions in Last of Us remake is also a pain point, and we even said that before. So we're like, are we gonna pay $70 for this? I was like, I'm not sure. Factions doesn't come with this, so that feels like I'm buying like half a package. If it would have came, if Faction would have came with that remake, I would have had no issues right now. I would have just gone to that right now. Like I can go back to Last of Us Remastered Factions, but we're not getting that. And again, that's just the most aggravating thing, because Last of Us 2 Faction was the thing I was looking forward to a lot, because I love it, man. But just to get this and to get them like pitter pattering around, well, it's real, it's there, we're working on it, working hard, and then guess what? Now we're going back to the drawing board because Bungie said that we had to. I'm like, so what was really on the plate here? Like, can we at least know like what you guys had in mind or what the deal was with this game before we actually had to go back to the drawing board? Like, and we're
No,
not.
'cause that will
we're not,
create expectations.
well, we're not.
That's
well,
really gonna
well,
set expectations for people,
we're
because
not-
then they're
and-
gonna be like, no,
and we're
this is
not-
good. We wanted this.
And I know, but we're not owed that information. But again, from the people in the factions community, what we really just wanted, man, was just factions from part
Well,
one and done a little better. That's it. That's all we wanted.
To that point, knowing what they were originally working on, does it matter? Does that really help the situation? Because it's like now that version doesn't exist anymore. So it's like, what's the point of like knowing, like what they were doing before Bungie came in and stepped in and told them that that's not going to work?
Because how different could it be? They had to
What
be.
do you
They had to
That's
be.
the thing.
They had to be.
We're
Work,
assuming
They have to been working on
That's the
something in the past 4 years that they're keeping the core of. And what it seems like when Bungie came in and what they've done was that you need more longevity. You need a reason for people to come back. But
Right.
how does the game actually
and factions,
play? Like, what
OG
does it actually
factions
do?
is not that. If we number one, if they had done factions with the remake, that would have cut way more significant time. We would have gotten the next factions way later, because that's something else they have to work on. And number two, I think, yes, right now I do agree. I do want factions. That OG factions, fucking love it. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't see myself playing that for a whole year. I see myself playing that for a couple months, and then I'll go back to Diablo. I'll go back to Final Fantasy. I'll go back to Tears of the Kingdom. It's not gonna sustain. I'll go back to Destiny, because that's the better life service, the actual multiplayer that keeps me enthralled. And that's the thing. I recognize I can't do OG multiplayer anymore. At least that's how I'm looking at it. For me to be really immersed and keep doing a multiplayer over and over, one of two things has to happen. It's either life service, sustainable fun like Destiny, or it's like ever evolving multiplayer like a Fortnite or a Diablo, which Diablo is also now life service. So I don't know. For me, I don't want that OG factions, but look prettier and better, because we're gonna get that with the unnamed project that they have working on. Because if anything, it's gonna have both DOG factions and something more.
Well,
I'll be honest.
that's where I disagree with, because I will go back to those factions and absolutely just dive my whole life into that because I love it.
Would you though?
Yes, of course. It's the same thing when people are playing Halo Infinite. Who are the people actually playing Halo
But yeah,
Infinite
but
right
no,
now?
that's not a good. We don't want factions to become infinite though.
No.
Like, we
no.
want this
I'm
to
talking,
be.
I'm talking about the hardcore people that still play Infinite. They're still in the Halo community. They're the ones that are still playing Halo Infinite.
Yeah,
Halo
but
Infinite
if
dropped the
I'm-
ball because of the fact that there's no content releasing afterwards.
Exactly.
And
And that's what I think
and,
Naughty Dog would have fallen on.
and everything after that, which is not good. At least from like the perspective it is. But also you have to keep in mind that Halo was dormant for years. Last was just got a
it's still
TV show.
Open up. It's still wide awake. Yeah, no, they are an OPM. Like Last of Us right now is like pulling an all-nighter. I agree with that.
Mhm.
What I think is that they would have fallen into the pit of what can we do with this limited amount of multiplayer? Because in the grand scheme of things, that old factions, fucking phenomenal fun, super. The gameplay, that's where it's at. It's the gameplay that truly. But again, just like how they made something as simple as proning in Last of Us Part 2, they didn't bring that for the remake, and then they justify it because of Joel, he's not able to pro and whatnot. If they're trying to make this as Last of Us Part 2 feeling as possible, you really need to work on it to not be glitchy, to work properly with the assets, to have a very interactable environment. And I just think that this
There's no way that
ambitious.
gameplay is gonna be like Last of Us Part 2. There's no way.
It's not gonna feel like that, but it's gonna be close, real damn close. I hope. I'm not expecting it to be. I hope it is.
As far as like smoothest because I don't think people are gonna be like dodging
Yeah,
dodging each
it's
other.
not gonna be.
I feel like it will be the same game director who worked on part 2 had 2 game directors. One of them is off with Neil working on his project. The other one is on the multiplayer game. I feel like they're not just gonna throw out a lot of the gameplay and movement and fluidity that was in part 2 and just like start over from scratch. I feel like a lot of that stuff. I don't think it's impossible to think that it would be carried over into the multiplayer game.
Because if anything, Macho, think about if Last of Us 1, PS3 days. You just bought Last of Us, you beat the game. Damn, I want to try this multiplayer. I never felt like movement got sacrificed for multiplayer. I felt like I was playing Joel, but it's a different skin. I still felt like I could play Last of Us Factions like I played the original, like story. And I feel like they're trying to imitate that. Like, oh, this is the standard of our gameplay. This is what we're trying to translate into Factions 2.0. But I do agree, it scratches the itch. It would have been nice to have Last of Us Factions now because I bet that the old Factions barely has a player base now on it.
No, you can still find people online and that
Can
very
you?
easily.
That's the beauty of 4v4s, man. Hey, man, then go play that, man. Go play Last of Us Remastered, because that's the thing, you can still go back to it, but I know that it's the fresh coat of paint, it's the remake feel, that's what we want. But sometimes it's not what we want, it's what we need, you know? It's like Harvey Dent, you know? You don't, it's not the person that you
Man,
want, it's what you need.
I'm just expecting I'm being cynical here, and I fully admit that.
We love it. We love non-ponies.
I'm just being full cynical. I fully expect, because with all their single player games, right, as you mentioned earlier, Soul, that we're gonna get that blog post that we're gonna get an announcement of Last of Us 3 being worked on by Naughty Dog. All hands on deck for this next iteration of the Last of Us franchise, and a little snippet is gonna be like, by the way, multiplayer is canceled because we have to focus on our next ambitious project that is The Last of Us Part 3. I'm expecting it. I am fully expecting it. Because how do you downcast your development team to go back to the drawing board and not cancel something, or have some rumors of canceling something or downsizing it? Like, what are we supposed to think? Other than, oh yeah, it's still gonna happen, but we've seen this multiple times where developers are like, oh, it's still happening, and it's not gonna happen.
You know what I think, Macho? Yeah. I think, and I hope, that Bungie said, you know, that to make this possible, you don't need this many people. You can actually do this like this. And they're like, what? And they're like, well, we can do that?
That's what I'm saying. So I feel like we should be clear that they're not necessarily going back to the drawing board, sure, but it doesn't mean that they're starting over from scratch. They're simply reassessing what they have right now. So my thinking is that,
right, which I mentioned before, like they have a core concept at least and something to play around with.
Well, probably more than that. So what I'm thinking is that means that we've already done the brunt of the work. There are some things that need to be retooled and possibly redone that doesn't require the full force of the original multiplayer team that we had working on this thing. So now we don't need them anymore, but we still need like a core team, or like, I don't know, 20 to 30 people or whatever that can finish this thing off. You know, because it is in a good enough space where we don't need the full team again working on this thing. We only need like a fraction of that original team. So that's my kind of line of thinking with that.
Because initially, Macho, they were riding a bike with the 2 wheels on the side, but then they found out that they can actually ride the bike without those 2 wheels. So now they're just efficient. They get the job done. They're still riding that bike, but there's just less components to it.
That analogy don't make sense.
It's just as effective.
he thought of it and he's like, this would make sense. And it's just like, that doesn't make sense.
It does make sense. It does. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. When you're a kid,
God.
What do you use? Two wheels on the side, right? To not fall. But you don't need all that. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you ride a bike.
I'm the analogy man on this podcast.
But yeah, but case in point, it's frustrating and
I feel you, man.
And what's the word? Draining, right? I'm being drained right now. And it's
shut up.
Like,
you're playing Tears of the Kingdom. Shut up.
Exactly.
You're not drained.
Exactly, which is why it's upsetting and it's frustrating, but at the same time, I'm like, I got other games to play, so whatever, man.
Yeah.
So,
We got
but
Diablo 4 to look forward to, man.
exactly. It's just one of those things. I'm just like, Naughty Dog, man. Like, come on, please get your shit together,
Man.
please, bro, please. It's getting
Also,
aggravating.
just want to give a shout out to William in the chat. He had a great thread about this whole
Oh, William
situation.
Aguilar, nice. Thanks for
Yeah,
jumping in, man.
had
Hey.
a great thread about this and sort of
He-
just talking about like PlayStation's recent review,
He did,
which
yeah,
we
he did.
which we all talked about previously, with Pixel Opus and seemingly Deviation Games and Media Molecule stepping off Dreams and working on a new project, and now it seems Naughty Dog has been caught in this as well. So it's been really interesting to see that. Oh yeah, that portfolio review has had it's gone through a lot of teams, but yeah, William had a
man.
great thread about that. So, but yeah, thanks
shouts
for
to him,
being
man.
here.
Shout out.
Yeah, I did see that thread, so it was well put together. Nice one on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Um,
But I'm just glad that they're still working on something. And listen, whatever they end up making, I'll be honest, this is me because it's about what I want.
Exactly.
I'm happy either way, man. Either another property from Naughty Dog, either Last of Us Part 3, or either Factions for. Naughty Dog, just give me something, Naughty Dog.
It's
I like whatever you
definitely
make.
part 3. It's definitely part 3.
I don't think so.
Man, that
I think it's a
post
spin-off, man. I don't know.
that post was directed right to Last of Us fans. They said a single player game experience. They're
Yeah,
working on part 3.
Uncharted did a spin-off. Like, if anything, they might do the same thing where they focus in on one character, a different character from the main storyline. I don't know.
And last
Neo-
man,
Neo is not-
Neo ain't doing no
yeah.
damn spin-off, man.
Yeah, he's not doing that.
Maybe we guess
but-
that Left Behind, but
but-
glorified.
Last
that
of
would be a cool
Factions.
DLC.
Hate to see it.
But they did also say in
What?
this, and then I think also in the Bloomberg article, projects plural on top of the multiplayer game.
Yeah.
So I originally thought that it was just Neil's game and then the multiplayer thing, but seemingly maybe they are working on something else on top of that, which would be absolutely insane. I mean, we do know that Naughty Dog has grown like incredibly. They actually have like producers at that studio now, which is like insane that they were working on
Yeah.
all these massive games without producers. which
Yeah.
is wild.
Yeah, that is
Um,
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's tough.
But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see like when. I mean, now the question, we thought it would be the multiplayer game, but now it's gonna be interesting to be like, which one of these multiple projects that they're working on gets revealed first, right?
I think
Did
one
they
of them
say
is
new
I think
IPs, or like did they specify at all?
just projects, right?
Yeah, just projects. I still firmly believe that Neil's is a new IP, but we'll see.
I think I think one of them is definitely Last Part 3, but I also think the other is a VR title.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe that's a possibility. Okay. So yeah, that is our little therapy session that we had.
Legit,
Yeah.
legit was. I feel better.
Good. That was the
I mean, you never
purpose
know,
of
man.
the
Maybe we get
podcast,
maybe we get Jack and Daxter. I don't know.
maybe.
That would be cool. Honestly.
But yeah, and I think simultaneously that's gonna do it for the podcast, man. Had a lot to get through. A very weird week, I'd say. It was interesting. Like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, and I think it's a little bit different being on the other side and the showcase actually disappointing a lot of us. But like, it's weird having something that you are looking forward to so much, and then like being on the other side of it, it's just like I kind of feel empty now. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, like
You
what's
got
the
drained?
next? Not.
That's exactly what happened.
No, because it's like not in the good way. But now it's like
Whoa!
man, like what do I have next to look forward to? Because like
Buy a
Summer
Switch.
Games Fest, baby.
Yeah, Summer Games Fest, man. What are we doing this over and under stuff? Are we
we'll
gotta do
we'll
this.
do that for Summer Games Fest for sure. But it's
Final
just
Fantasy,
like,
bro.
yeah, I don't know, because I don't know if you guys watched Kind of Funny, but they were a little bit. There was a little bit of copium where they were like, well, maybe Factions will be at Summer Games Fest, and now I'm like, oh, that ain't happening now, baby.
Oh
It's like,
man, they turned into wait till E3 boys. That's wild.
I think so. But yeah. Regardless, man. Well, who knows? Maybe Death Stranding will be there, but
Hey, so real quick, I didn't get your vibe on this. Did you mind at all like Immortals, something Avium, whatever the fuck?
Uh,
Nothing.
it didn't really do anything for me.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then also like the thing is too is that like just thinking about that showcase, and that goes to what Brap was saying about I think Insider Gaming or whatever, that he saw a bunch of trailers first party wise that wasn't at the showcase, right? Um, now these teams aren't first party, but like they are publishing these games, so like just thinking about something like a Lost Soul Aside or Stellar Blade.
Or
Um,
Black Myth Wukong.
well, that's not published by Sony.
Avatar:
That's
Frontiers
what
of
I.
Pandora wasn't
That's
there
what
as
I
well.
thought.
That game too,
That's
but
what I
again,
thought
not
Phantom Blade was for a moment. I thought it was Black Myth Wukong for a moment.
um, but again, like published Sony published games that like we know
Right.
about. Rise of the Ronin as well, right? That are
That's
being
true.
published by Sony Interactive Entertainment.
That's next year, though,
That
right?
what happened?
That's next year, though, right? Rise of Ronin is a
Yeah,
2024 game.
2024.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Um, yeah. So again, it's just like we know that they have a bunch of things in the works in the immediate like in the vicinity, kind of. Stellar Blade is supposed to be releasing this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That just for whatever reason they just chose not to talk about.
Maybe
I
Summer
think
Games Fest.
maybe I think we all expected that Twisted Metal would be here, at the
Oh,
showcase.
yeah.
A game or the show?
The game,
The
the game.
game. The game.
Okay.
Not the
And then
show.
we
Shut
also know
up.
that, and then we also know that Fire Sprite is working on a action adventure horror game on top of that. But then my thing is in talking myself into believing that Twisted Metal had to be here to line up with the show, I then kind of thought back and was like, they were just handed that project from Lucid Games.
Right.
So remembering that, I was like, man, okay, so there was no way that game would be here. Obviously, there was no way Twisted Metal would be here. So
Of
it's like,
course.
yeah, just remembering that. But like again, you get swept up in the hype, and I'm like, no, of course Twisted Metal's gonna be here at this showcase. Of course, it has to be, right?
That was me with factions. That's why, like, I understand Macho's frustration because in my mind, I'm like, oh, for sure it's gonna be here. Like, I was like, oh yeah, like,
Well, that's
it's a done deal.
Well, that's why I was mostly disappointed from the show in general, because I was like, where is faction? I turned to BG. Where's
Yeah.
factions? Like,
Yeah, where are the games? But I don't know. The games are there. I just think there's a games definitely that we have questions about. We'll definitely see at Summer Games Fest. I don't know if Factions is one of them. Like, I really doubt it. But I don't know. Maybe we see a surprise appearance of Neil. Like, hey, here's more concept art.
But yeah, I just think that we are, to be honest, I think now, like us as PlayStation fans, we are in that same phase that Xbox fans were in
The last
2020. Oh, no, but in 2020, where a lot of first in terms of first party before they had their big showcase in 2020, where they were kind of in the dark in terms of like they just didn't know, aside from Hellblade 2, because Hellblade 2 was announced that December, where they just didn't know what was going on. So like behind the scenes, obviously Microsoft was kind of like reloading in terms of like the things that they were working on. I think we're gonna go through the same thing here, where again, Santa Monica just released something, Gorilla just released something, Media Molecule just started something brand new, Ben just started something brand new. London just started. Well, who knows? But they released something in 2019, so they're just working on their co-op game. Um,
Right.
Blue Point just they released something in 2020. Housemarque released something in 2021. Right? A lot of these teams kind of just released something. I think we're going to be in that phase for a little bit where Sony in general just released a bunch of first-party stuff. Now they need to reload the gun, so to speak.
Man, you really are going off with like the loading and unloading and
No,
reloading. My man's like,
I was like, I knew what I wanted to say earlier with that analogy, but I don't think it came out exactly right.
no, that
So,
definitely came out. No, I told Macho like, 'cause yeah, they're gonna unload. I'm like, whoa.
chill. But yeah,
Relax.
yeah, I think we're definitely in that phase, and it's
For
gonna
sure,
be like
man.
that for some time.
yeah.
GTA 6
Yeah,
Summer Games Fest.
who knows? That's gonna do it for the podcast. want to thank everyone for who tuned in, whether live or after the fact. I think at one point we had like
Whether
11
alive or
concurrent.
dead.
I think at one point we had like 11 concurrent viewers, so that's really really cool to see.
Ooh, love to see it.
So yeah, thanks for everyone who tuned in.
And we have
Um,
10 likes too. Shouts to y'all.
yeah.
Sheesh,
And then the few subscribers that we got as well too during the show. We appreciate it. Um, so yeah, once again, want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast, share it out, all that good stuff. We're gonna get started with these outros. Walt, why don't you kick things off for us, man?
Hey man, this weekend is all about that. Tears of the Kingdom. I'm trying to at least roll credits on the main story before Final Fantasy 16 kicks on. I'm mentally preparing for that Diablo 4. I might attempt the challenge that they got. That's get to level 100 on hardcore mode, and you like get your name. It's like the first 1,000 people to do it. Get like their name etched somewhere or something. Sounds cool. I might do it. I might not. I might just give up.
I'm gonna be real honest with you, man. You need like to take off a week to do that.
To do that, yeah, no, man.
Yeah,
I got
because
a
you know how
job,
many people
so
are gonna do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's true. You know how many people don't got jobs? Let's see. I'm
Exactly. Exactly.
gonna be playing some more. What am I playing on the Switch? I'm playing. Well, I'm gonna try out Omega Strikers, which is a free. It's like a frisbee game or something. It looks cool. Um, and this weekend, hopefully tomorrow night, I'm gonna be attempting the ultimate challenge on Outlast Trials. So me and my bro, we already cleared every challenge on the main game. Now we're trying to do the
You have a
final
brother?
challenge, which what's up?
You have a brother?
No, no, my best friend. My man was
Soul's
like,
not
"Oh,
laughing. He's like, damn, I thought he was just serious.
no, no, I don't got a brother. No, I mean y'all are my brother. Um,
Oh, that's so cute.
I, I love you. So we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna be attempting
Yeah,
the
you'll
final
get kicked
challenge.
off the podcast for that kind of behavior. Let me tell
No,
you.
listen, you know what's crazy? Outlast Trials is still in early access. The full game hasn't come out. It's gonna supposedly come to console in the near future. Um, and they have a live stream of things that they're gonna be releasing different challenges, different maps. So it's kind of like a live service type deal. Um, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to try this challenge. It's absurdly hard, and I'm probably gonna have major headaches, but it's all worth it because it's all for the skins, man. It's all for the, it's all for the fashion. But yeah, man. And tonight I'm gonna watch John Wick 4 again.
Mm. Macho, what about you, man? What's going on?
Halle Bailey. Halle Bailey.
You're not wrong, man. Jesus Christ. Um, well, not well. Yeah, never mind. I won't say what I was gonna say. More Tears of the Kingdom. That's for sure. I've actually during our podcast completed the fourth palace, and that was a lot of fun. It was the water one too, and it wasn't a pain in the ass. It was actually really cool.
Hey,
But yeah, so
you
that
like those fish people, huh? You sick?
I hate you. Um, so that getting through more Tears of the Kingdom, I completed the fourth palace, and now we have to go to a certain place. So we'll see where that goes. I think the goal will probably to roll credits before Street Fighter 6 comes out.
Ooh,
Which I think could be done actually. 'Cause I'm getting really far. I got like 60 hours into it. It's a lot of fun. It's great.
Jesus
Again,
Christ.
game of the year material, man. It's great. Quick shout out to the What's Up PlayStation podcast boys, Jay Bari and Persona. Jay Bari is actually holding. I think it's called the Online Arcade. I think it's something like that. They have Discord. Go to his Twitter. On his page, stuff like that. They're hosting a Street Fighter 6 tournament in July. I actually already registered for it, so people that are interested in playing Street Fighter 6, not hardcore, you're gonna learn a lot of stuff. It's just more for kind of get your feet wet in the tournament scene.
Get your ass handed to you, yeah.
That too, yeah. I mean, these people are actually legit good at fighting games, and I play them on DNF Duel, and I that day I was not really good mentally, but I did get my licks in. And it was a lot of fun. So you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna have fun. So tune into Jay Barry's channel and on YouTube and Twitter to get more information on that. As far as the podcast goes, the next time we will be going live for episode 102 is on Sunday, June 4th. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have another special guest coming in, which we'll announce at a later date. And this weekend, I'm gonna see some family, see my sister and my nephew, and go see Little Mermaid again. It was really good. So that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. How many times are you gonna watch it?
Dude, it's really damn good. So we'll find out that second time if I need to watch it again. I has
What
honestly
is it?
ever since Wednesday, I have not stopped thinking about that movie because it was really good. I loved it a
Yeah,
lot.
that's why you were doing the water temple today, right? Man, you just
that's
what
very
is it with you and
convenient.
fish people?
That's very
Golly.
convenient. That's very man.
Man.
You have this fascination with fish people and wanted.
Yeah, you got this fascinating
Yeah.
like Mifa.
You,
I bet
no,
you like saw Mifa's.
you keep having the
Nah, you
correlation
saw
here.
probably saw Mifa's brother there in Tears of the Kingdom. You're like, whoa, big
Hey,
bro.
yo, that's wild, son. In any case, yeah, man, that's gonna be a
So
fun
it's actually
movie.
good then. So this is the best live action that Disney has done then.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It has the heart and soul of the original while adding in more bits and pieces that make the characters more fleshed out and more relatable and just really fun to
Right.
watch on screen. It's great. Even the even Sebastian steals the show. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Sebastian was actually a fun character with great one-liners, and it was not jarring or weird. The only person that was, the only character that was Flounder, but he was barely in the movie. It was just hilarious to see them go like, Flounder, go do this thing, and like that was the only thing Flounder was good for the entire movie, just to go do stuff for people. But but again, it was really fun, and I can't wait to go see it again. See Sammy's reaction to it too, because I know she's gonna love it.
It's like that scene in Rick and Morty where he makes like a little robot to like pass butter, and the robot goes twice on purpose. He's like, you pass butter. Oh my god.
That's exactly Flounder was. He had his few scenes, he had his few lines, and then the rest of the movie is like Sebastian's like, Flounder, go do this thing, and then he's like, okay, and then he goes does it. That's it. That's his inclusion.
How, what? What's
No,
he saying?
shut
How's
up.
he saying?
We gotta get out. Soul, take us out, buddy. Take us out. What are you doing this week? Buddy? What are you doing this
don't
week?
What are
need
you
to
doing, Sword? What are you doing, Soul?
Yeah,
It's
so
such a Jamaican accent.
we don't need to hear that.
I cannot unhear it now. So sorry for our listeners. No, go to the.
Yeah, I am gonna be playing Wasteland 3 a lot more, and Walt, I am like 2 episodes away from finishing Chainsaw Man. That's my
Hey, you liking it?
really good. Yeah, I love it.
It's crazy, right? So
Yeah,
good.
I think I'm gonna pick up the manga after I finish
Yes,
it.
sir. Do it. Part 2 is coming out currently.
Yeah.
What's that girl with the red hair's name? What's her name?
Makima.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
Woof,
voiced
woof.
by. Shut up. I think she's voiced by Susie Young, who's also the
Yeah.
voice actress for Yuffie. Yeah, she's okay. Cool.
Yeah, they do the voice for Makima.
But yeah, it's a fantastic series, and it's also like female characters done right. I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
all
not Naruto
really,
style.
oh man. Yeah, they're all really done well. I honestly I like every character in the show. Like, yeah, they're
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
man. Great
Um,
stuff. You like you like Himeno, huh? You like the eye patch and she's very fun. You know, she.
uh, episode
Did you see
episode
that
7.
scene? Did you see that scene?
Well, I was gonna say, oh yeah, the kiss. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Bro,
My man,
that
my
shit's
man got
wild.
flustered.
Well, 'cause
Yeah.
I was gonna say episode 7 and 8 messed me up, man. And well, you know what I'm talking about.
Those episodes will traumatize you, like Red Wedding style.
Yeah, but fantastic. Those 2 episodes are incredible.
Good
Because
for you,
of
man.
what happens to her and whatnot. Well, what happens to everyone. But yeah, that's primarily what I'm gonna be doing next week. For this next week. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the DualShock and Sense crew. Once again, want to thank BRAP for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Sir.
And yeah, we will see you guys on June 4th for episode 102. So see you then. Peace.